Good evening and welcome. I call to order the October 25th, 2023 City of Calabasas regularly scheduled council meeting. And tonight I'm joined by Mayor
Recording
Pro Tem
in
Weintraub.
progress.
I think our meeting has now officially started. Tonight I'm joined by Mayor Pro Tem Weintraub, Council Members Albrecht, Bazagian, and Kraut, as well as our City Manager, City Attorney, City Clerk, and a lot of department heads here and staff. If you'd like to provide public comment and are in person, please complete a speaker card and give it to our city clerk. Cards are in the back of the room. If you're joining via Zoom, please press raise hand or *9 if you're joining via phone, and then *6 to unmute yourself when the item you'd like to comment on is presented. For items not on the agenda, please wait for my announcement for oral communication and public comment. When you are called upon to speak, please state your name, the city in which you live, and you'll be allowed up to 3 minutes to address the City Council regarding any item within the subject matter jurisdiction of the Council. Tonight, the Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Girl Scout Troop 3216 with a special guest.
Audience attention. Please stand for the presentation of the colors. Color Guard attention. Color Guard advance. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Color Guard salute the colors. Post the colors. Color Guard salute the colors. Color Guard dismiss.
Thank you very much. That's a great way to start a meeting. And I should say one of them asked, I know someone will have the answer, why are the city pins that they all received for doing such a great job here today did not match our logo right behind us, and they wanted to know if that was for Halloween.
It is. My favorite logo. I wish we could replace ours with that.
Oh, no. It would cost a lot for all the pins, though, but it is great looking. Before we have approval of the agenda, I would like to ask either our city attorney or city manager to make a comment.
Mayor, if I could. Council, there was an item that was scheduled to be on the agenda tonight in regards to airplane noise or noise from aircraft. Staff had worked with LAWA to be at this meeting tonight, and they chose not to come. They refused to come, in fact. And as a result, we decided not to put that item on the agenda. And that was an oversight on our part, and it is our understanding that there's still interest in discussing that. To add it to the agenda would require a 4/5 vote by the council, and so, Mayor, I would leave that up to you and your direction there.
Okay. Given that, I will ask if there's a request to add an immediate action item to the agenda.
Yes, I would so move.
I'll second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any council discussion and direction on airplane noise? Oh, actually, we need a vote, correct, Madam Clerk?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, so it'd be a vote to confirm adding the item, and then a vote which requires 4/5, and then a separate vote to approve the agenda itself.
Is it a vote by aye, or is it a poll at this point?
To keep the record clean, a roll call would be fine.
Okay, thank you, Madam Clerk.
Councilmember Basaja?
Aye.
Councilmember Albrecht? Aye. Councilmember Kraut?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Weintraub?
Aye.
Mayor Shapiro?
It's 5-0. Aye.
Carries 5-0.
Okay. Thank you. So now we will have council discussion and direction on airplanes noise issues.
Yes, we'll add that to the agenda.
Okay.
And
After
then-
consent, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, staff would recommend first item after consent.
Okay. With everyone, it'll be then it'll take the place of item number 4 after the consent items, correct?
Yeah.
Correct.
All right. Very good. All right. May I have a motion to approve the agenda with those modifications?
So moved.
Seconded.
Okay, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Passes 5-0. Thank you very much. We'll move on to presentations now. We have a fire department update, and I know there's an event tomorrow evening too. We have Chief Drew Smith who will present the update. Welcome, and thank you for being here.
Well, thank you to the City of Calabasas for always the continued support. The Los Angeles County Fire Department, relatively light update. Your fire family is doing really good. So healthy workforce, motivated, and always training. One of those training components is our continued relationship with our regional partners and local partners. And so the integration with Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department at Lost Hills under the leadership of Captain C2, but also that extends to the bordering agencies such as LAPD and with our federal partners as well. And then on the fire side of the house, it's Los Angeles City Fire Department and the Ventura County Fire Department. And why I mention them is because when we have the probability for large fire growth, and when we get into what we are in our high-risk months, that continued working relationship, when we need to meet the needs of an emergency, that we have trained to what I would like to call the Super Bowl day. We're coming up on the 5-year anniversary of the Woolsey fire, but we've had 100 years worth of fire history that mimics what the Woolsey fire gave us. So we know what the end result is. That's why we continue to train in that fashion on evacuations with the new zone concepts and the public education that we're doing regarding the home hardening evacuation component to what we're doing, plus the mutual aid system, also the unified command component, which couples into the training that the city here has done with the EOC and understanding the components of the incident command system and the integration of how that happens in a large emergency and a supportive role to when we have an emergency, of how that looks with an incident management team that's managing any type of incident. So with that, just a little outlook on probably get our first, what I'd like to call moderate Santa Ana wind event going into Saturday, Sunday, and extending through Tuesday. So we need a little flexibility on both sides of that, but we can shoot for Sunday through Tuesday. Scale of 1 to 10, if we use Woolsey fire as a 10, this would be about a 6.5 to 7. What does that mean? We have a high probability for large fire growth in areas that haven't seen fire frequency in quite some time. And so basically from Las Virgenes, Malibu Canyon, all the way to the 405 freeway to the Palisades is our biggest areas in the Santa Monica Mountains that hadn't seen that fire frequency in some time. Even though we've been favored with close to 4 inches of rain, this is a very abnormal year where we have bloom and we have green grass, which is abnormal. We still have a significant threat when Mother Nature turns on the fan when it gets hot, dry, windy, especially dry and windy. So we have vulnerability. So I don't want folks to get relaxed on that, because it is a completely different set of conditions when we have those Santa Ana wind events and the probability to promote large fire growth, because we've seen the end result before. And with that, I will see if there's any questions for me.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll turn to council comments and questions. Looking at council, I see Councilmember Albrecht.
I can never thank you enough. I mean, right to the core, how hard you work, how hard you prepare. So when the event does happen, I mean, the hardest training is training before an event. And you don't want to hope it's going to happen. So, but you still have to train and strengthen yourselves mentally and physically. It's such a tough job. My dad was a volunteer fireman. We had a squawk box in the house. I've always been passionate about firefighting and prevention and public safety. So hats off always.
Thank
You got
you.
our
Appreciate it.
support.
Thank you. Councilmember Kraut.
I'll just say a quick thank you as well, if you would share with Megan and the rest of your team for coming out to our Calabasas Pumpkin Festival and sharing all that information on knowing your fire zone and home hardening. Great displays there, great education for our public. Thank you.
Yeah, I heard it was a great success.
Thank you. Councilmember Bazagian.
Yes, has the fire department taken a position on artificial turf aside from the 5-foot distance that's required now from structures?
So, artificial turf can burn depending on what it's made of. If there's a lot of oils or there's a lot of combustibles in that, I know that with the drought that we've been through, there's been a transition to artificial turf, and it does have the ability to burn. So within the 5-foot zone, we've always had the requirement within 5 feet to address any significant hazards with that. So there is a transition in that, and how it looks, I don't know. So a couple components of that. Artificial turf on how it's laid has the ability to, if it has petroleums in it that's up against your house, has the ability to promote your house burning down. In the fire code at this point in time, that is not being enforced about that artificial turf. Things within that 5 feet that is enforceable, if you have your all your firewood stacked up next to your house, you have just debris around your house, you have unmanicured vegetation, that also plays a role within that 5 foot. And as we know, the farther you get away from the house, the less likely you have those embers to promulgate your structure to burn down. We know that home hardening and the best defense is that preparatory component behind the maintenance behind your home. I know a long-winded answer, but if there's nothing really that besides cement that is fireproof. So grass has, I'll just say has, artificial turf grass has a potential, because there's some that's a lot shaggier than others or longer. There's some that's a lot tighter than others. So it all has the potential depending on the makeup of how it's made.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Weintraub.
Just want to say thank you to you and your team for everything that you're doing to help prepare the city. And hopefully people are really beginning to know their zones, which will help in the event of an evacuation. So we're continuing to push that out to our residents.
We
So
are.
thank
We
you.
know that. Thank you.
And I just want to thank you, join everyone thanking you and everyone who works at 125-68 here in our city, keeping us all safe, helping us be prepared. I know tomorrow night is a big event as well.
Correct.
That Supervisor Lindsay Horvath is coordinating with Sheriff Fire and
OEM. That's correct.
So that, and what time is that, just to clarify?
I know that I have to be there at 5.
Okay.
What
So
time
we
it
could probably
starts,
be
I
there
don't
at
know.
6, but, and it's over in
Agora.
Agora.
Yeah, it's Agora, correct.
Is it Lindero Middle
Lindero,
School?
correct.
Yes. Okay.
It's
I'm
from
sure
6
someone's going to announce that in a bit.
It's from 6 to 8 at Lindero Canyon Middle School.
Correct.
And thank you very much again.
Thank you. Appreciate the
Our
support.
city manager, I'm sorry.
Mr. Mayor, if I could add one thing, we talk often of wildfires or wildland fires, but we also want to thank Chief Smith and his team. We had a structure fire this last weekend, and our hearts go out to the residents of that structure and that home. But thank you for your team and the response on that as well.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay. And Madam Clerk, are there any members of the public wishing to speak on this item, either in person, I don't have cards on that, or online?
Mr. Mayor, we have a hand up, but I'm not sure if it's for this item. I will call her. Melina Byrne.
Melinda Byrne, okay. Is it for this item, Melinda? I believe it's Melinda. Melissa? I don't hear anything.
She lowered her hand, so.
Okay, must be for something else. Thank you very much for being
Thank you.
here. And we'll
Appreciate the
see you
support.
tomorrow night.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to move on to council comments. I'm going to ask my colleagues for a moment, which I was going to do at the beginning, but this is probably more appropriate. Ask the audience, ask everyone here to take a moment of silence, and that is in memory of the 4 young girls who, Pepperdine students, seniors, who, and for their families, friends, tragically lost their life this last week by a vehicle crashing into them. And as well, just tonight for 26 plus, I'm sure there'll be more lost lives in a mass shooting on the East Coast. And we're going to talk later tonight about gun safety at some point. And also for all the hostages, whatever your belief is, let's pray for all 218 to have their safe return wherever they are from, no matter what their background is. Thank you very much. Move on to council announcements. Mayor Pro Tem Weintraub.
My list is exactly what you just spoke about. So, no, I also just really can't get over how different the world is since we were just here 2 weeks ago. Like, the situation in Israel just continues to get worse, and my heart goes out to all of the hostages, all of the families being impacted in Israel, and the innocent people in Gaza. And there's so many people locally who are impacted by this tragedy. Just with family there, friends there, people missing, people serving in the IDF. There's a huge impact to our community. And I also just want to raise something that is going on that's impacting a lot of our younger residents in this community who are attending the UC schools. There's rampant anti-Semitism taking place at our universities that are funded, publicly funded universities. I've reached out to our Assembly member, Jackie Irwin, and our State Senator, Ben Allen, and members of the Jewish Caucus, Jesse Gabriel and Henry Stern, and they understand what's going on. They're angry, but we really need to speak up. I mean, these are our public universities that are creating like a hostile learning environment for people attending these schools. So, there's this tragedy happening, in the Middle East, and the impact that's happening here can really be felt. So I just wanted to bring that up, that it's really important that we reach out to our representatives that represent us in Sacramento and share these thoughts with them. I mean, they're really in tune to the needs of our residents and concerns. And I also want to acknowledge the 4 Pepperdine students who were tragically killed by a young driver driving 104 miles per hour in a 45-mile zone. There is no excuse. We all use PCH. I mean, that's how we get to the beach. So I ask Kindon, whatever support we can lend to Malibu and Captain C2 to help get cameras, not just on PCH, but on Mulholland, on these speedways, to help keep our residents safe. I know there's a pilot program that was introduced that Glendale was able to get in, but we weren't. But anything that we can do to support the efforts on PCH, I know that we would all be supportive of it. And as David mentioned, the situation unfolding right now in Maine, it's just something that is beyond words. So as we continue to do good work here, we just have to be mindful of everything going on outside of our council chambers. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Albrecht.
I want to thank both our mayor and Mayor Pro Tem for speaking the words for us. There's no need to duplicate it. Beautifully articulated, and to support Malibu also would be really special. It's, as council members, we get reports on our cell phones whenever there's a tragedy, an accident. It seems like over our house is where the helicopter goes to West Hills Hospital. So over the past 25 years, 30 years, I've counted many, many helicopters, and I always wondered why it always happens in Malibu. Well, hopefully they'll come up with an answer and the cameras can help. Maybe hopefully before than afterwards. So from an announcement standpoint, my heart's not into it after what happened in Lewiston, Maine. But there is some joy we had this past weekend with the Pumpkin Festival. And I've got some good news. I took my granddaughter there, and she wanted to know, is it going to be there next year? She's already got it on her calendar. It was just fantastic. The little girl had her face painted and everybody else. She had to wait online. It was really well done, well executed, very, very safe, great vendors. It's an event that we really can be proud of in so many ways. It comes from not just Calabasian residents, but all over the region. It's wonderful. Chamber Halloween Bash, Thursday, October 26th at Belmont Village, Senior Living. And it's never too early to kick off things with your kids, so there's a Holiday Fest Toy Drive kickoff. Please put it on your calendar for November 18th at 10 o'clock to noon at Civic Center. Many family activities for children. Please bring unwrapped toys, and they can take a photo op with many of the Disney characters.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Bazagian.
Yes, I want to thank my colleagues for their thoughtful comments, and I agree with all of them. I especially am glad, Alicia, that you mentioned the situation at the universities. I've been watching around the country. It's appalling how backward some of our universities have become and the kind of bigotry that they're tolerating and encouraging by not doing anything about it. And I hope that more people speak about that in the future. On a lighter note, I did want to thank our staff, our Community Services Department, Erica Green and her crew for a beautiful pumpkin festival. I think everyone had a great time. Wonderful tradition in Calabasas. And I want to wish everyone a happy Halloween.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Kraut.
Well, I think all the announcements have been made. First of all, I want to echo the sentiments of my colleagues here for all the words that have been said here tonight. There's no place for hate in this world, and certainly no place for hate in Calabasas. So we'll continue to set a good example and speak out where we see troubles in the world. Locally, I just want to remind everybody that Tuesday night is Halloween. There's going to be a whole bunch of our little small children running around in black outfits, dashing across the street at the moment you least expect it. So please, let's slow down and make sure that this is a safe and happy Halloween for everybody here. And other than that, I have no real announcements, so I'll turn it back over to our mayor.
Thank you. And I think that could include some council members dashing in and out for trick-or-treating too. You never know. I do want to take one moment to thank all the council and for supporting, and a special thanks to Mayor Pro Tem Weintraub. The public reached out to us. We had a non-city event on the 12th. It was not a city event, but it was a publicly generated event to show solidarity and support for Israel, and that was done, and there were well over 1,000, if not 1,200 people there who just maybe needed a place to be together more than anything. So thank you for all your hard work, and thank you to council members for their being there to support, and again, a non-city event. I want to thank Council Member Ed Albrecht and the Mayor's Youth Council Chair President Jordan Madelon for supporting and coming to the Something Yellow Gala, the Cordasco Something Yellow Childhood Cancer event. And it's already been mentioned about Halloween, so I'll wish everybody Halloween. On this Sunday from 9 to 3, there is a ham radio class at Dienza Park, and I believe you can still sign up for that if you are interested. That's part of emergency preparedness in our city. It's a very good thing, and we have a lot of experts in the field who are going to be teaching that class and supporting. So if you're interested, please take a look at that. It's this Sunday. And last but not least, November 7th this year, we will be celebrating in our city Veterans Day. We have a Veterans Day event scheduled in back of City Hall at the Veterans Garden from 3 to 4:30 p.m., if I read that right. And I would encourage everyone to come out and support and thank all those who have served, continue to serve, and those who've given the ultimate sacrifice as well to help us keep our freedoms we're so lucky to have. And that's all I have for comments, so I will now move on to oral communication and public comment. Now, I do have a number of cards here. If there's anyone else wishing to speak on a non-agendized item, and I have the 2 speaker cards for what is now agenda item number 4 pertaining to airplane noise, so you'll be called in a little bit. But anyone else wishing to speak, please fill out a card in the back and give it to the city clerk, and we'll find out also if there are those online. We'll start with Mark Levinson. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. Mark Levinson. I live in Los Angeles. I'm the immediate past chair of the Chamber of Commerce. And first of all, I'd like to thank the city and all of the workers who contributed to making the Pumpkin Fest as great an event as it was. We saw people, kids, adults, grandparents, young kids, all having a great time, all having food, which they know. The music was great. It was really a stupendous event, and they're not easy to put on, I know, and that the work that it goes on behind the scenes that the city's done is far more than the public sees, so thank you for that. Just a couple quick announcements that the Chamber has coming up. We have our newsletter, which goes out to everyone that's a member. It lists all the activities coming up in the next month. We had a great grand opening for the agency. Our women's group is having monthly speakers, so if you're interested in women's events, women things, that's a great event, and we know it's Breast Cancer Awareness Month, so I mentioned that particularly. Also, our breakfast on the 8th of November is being sponsored by Change the Cycle, a group that's committed to working with poverty and helping women achieve their true goals. And then it's my pleasure tonight to introduce Richard Chu, who some of you already know, who's the owner of Crumble Cookies. And he has not one, but 6 establishments. Some of you have already been to his grand opening and sampled their cookies. They're great. So Richard, why don't you come up and tell us about yourself?
Thank you. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and all the council members. So grateful to be part of the city of Calabasas. You know, from the very first day when I walked into building and safety to start my plan check process. You know, all the ladies there and all the clerks there were super helpful. And, you know, from our pink ribbon cutting, you know, Calabasas is first class, you know, city. This is the most welcome that we received from all the places that I've opened. And I'm truly grateful to be able to be part of the city. And I hope that you guys get an opportunity to come by, you know, to check out and try out one of our 175 flavors that we have. Grateful to be here, you know, grateful for the warm welcome that we received so far, and I hope that we can be, you know, just a little sweeter, make, you know, Calabasas just a little bit sweeter, and to be, you know, fabric of this community. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, and welcome. And I know Mark has to leave. Mark has to leave to go get some cookies because today's the 25th. All right, next, Joanne Suara, followed by John Suara. Welcome.
Good evening. Joanne Suara, longtime Calabasas resident. I'm here tonight to speak to you about the New Home Company lawsuit regarding the West Village property. The judge's final decision is due soon, and if it comes down in favor of the developer, I'm asking that you appeal. I attended the bench hearing in August, and after listening to the judge's comments about wildfire risks in our area, it was clear to me that he had little knowledge or understanding about what really happens when a wildfire comes through the Las Virgenes area. And I was disappointed, too, that he seemed to fail to consider testimony by the Center for Biological Diversity and the Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy regarding dangers of overbuilding in fire-prone areas. This is clearly a public safety issue. When you put together your strategic priorities, public safety was at the top of the list. You have all spoken many times about how important public safety is to you. If this is clearly the case, then there should be no question about filing an appeal. The real question is, when the next wildfire roars through the Las Virgenes corridor, will you have done all you could do to protect the citizens and make the area as safe as possible for everyone? Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, John Suara, followed by Anita McQuillan.
Good evening. And my name's John Suara, and a longtime resident of Calabasas. Joanne and I attended the LA Superior Court bench trial on West Village where Judge Curtis Kinn tentatively ruled in favor of the developer, the New Home Company, LLC. In his ruling, the judge sided with the lawyers representing the developer and seemed to ignore or discount the arguments made by the lawyers representing the city. The court will be handing down its final written ruling sometime within the next month. If the final ruling remains unfavorable, the city has up to 30 days to submit an appeal, which we hope you will do. We need to appeal an unfavorable ruling to have our case heard. It is suggested that when the city appeals, that a land use attorney or attorney skilled in appeals be retained. Why should the city file an appeal? Remember the outpouring of support by the public against West Village. Approximately 600 emails and letters were submitted by the public against opposing the development. The developer wanted to destroy our scenic hillsides by grading them for soil for building pads. The public wants to protect our open space. That is part of what makes Calabasas unique and such a great place to live. People have also expressed concern about public safety because the property is a high fire risk. The judge discounted the fire dangers. Sounded like he had never experienced a wildfire. The wildfires and other wildfires that have burned through our neighborhood over the years have destroyed homes and property. We lost 9 homes in the Woolsey fire, and back in the 1980s, early 1980s, we lost 4 homes up at the top of Farm Field. About $100 million is being now spent to construct the wildlife overpass over the 101 freeway and Agora Road at Liberty Canyon. The wildlife linkages on the West Village property are needed to support the new linkages being provided by the overpass. In conclusion, open space, the environment, and public safety are important to Calabasas residents. As a result, the Calabasas City Council voted unanimously in 2021 to save the West Village open space by not approving development. This is to request that the City Council vote to appeal Judge Kinn's decision. In the spirit of transparency, it is requested that the City Council vote for the appeal. The vote for the appeal be done publicly in open session. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Anita McQuillan, followed by Denise Miller.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Anita McQuillan, a long-time resident of Calabasas. I am asking the council members to appeal the proposed West Village project decision. I read through the final report, and in my opinion, there was a failure to adequately represent the voices of Calabasas residents. I believe council members owe it to us to appeal this decision, utilising the services of lawyers who are experienced in land issues. It is particularly important to appeal the decision because there are safety issues at stake. There is a matter of ingress and egress in the area around the proposed development, and there is the circumstance of it being in a high fire risk hazardous zone. The West Village development proposed is very concentrated, having large numbers of homes in a high risk fire area. Entering or leaving these homes will depend on access to Las Virgenes, an already overutilised road. In times of panic, it could be disastrous. The high risk of fire is real. During the Woolsey fire, the junction between Las Virgenes and the 101 was impacted greatly. Just north of the 101 and to the east of Las Virgenes, 7 single-family dwellings were destroyed by fire. This could have been much worse if it had not been for the resourceful residents who stayed behind, defying the mandatory instruction to leave. They stayed in the area, warning authorities that fire had broken out. In addition, they hosed down their own neighbours' properties and any small forest development. It is believed that their actions may have saved many more properties from burning. Regardless, the fact that any structures burned suggests that resources are already inadequate to deal with a fire of this size in Calabasas. During the Woolsey fire, a total of 3 people died, 1,643 structures were destroyed, and 295,000 people were evacuated. We cannot risk an even more disastrous event with larger numbers being displaced. While I understand that there may be some development in the location of the West Village project, the current proposal is too concentrated and poses an additional hazard when fire breaks out in the Calabasas area. I urge you to appeal this West Village ruling. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much. Denise Miller, followed by J.C. Schillen. Welcome.
Hello. My name's Denise Miller. I'm a Calabasas resident. And first, I want to thank all of you collectively that are committed to open space. I'm proud of our city and the citizens and what we stand for related to open space. Historically, we've managed on many occasions to overcome challenges that would have impacted our open space, such as the Amundsen Ranch, just so many battles. Some we won, some we lost, but we kept trying. Even if we thought we'd lose, we kept trying, we persevered, and I'm really proud of our city for that. And for people that did that, James and others especially. So when the issue to me is appeal or not appeal, and I heard stories, well, it's too expensive or we don't stand a chance, and there's a lot of history, but the bottom line is those excuses cannot be the excuses. When someone gets a dire medical diagnosis, I've never met a patient who said, it's too expensive to fight for because I have a very poor chance of making it, right? So it's never too expensive to fight for open space, even with a very poor chance of beating the odds, because our open space is irreplaceable and priceless. On West Village, it was turned down mostly because of the impact on open space. If they would have come to some kind of agreement to save that open space, it might have not gone that way. So I am standing here begging you to appeal West Village ruling, no matter what the cost or possible poor prognosis. So don't give up. Thank you.
Thank you very much. J.C. Schillen, followed by Michael Harrison.
Good evening, J.C. Schillen, longtime Calabasas resident. I'm also here to speak on the potential West Village ruling, not in favor of the city, but in favor of the developer. And I will say that the previous speakers have said the main things, but this is what I want to share this evening. You all might be sitting there thinking, oh, it's the same people. We know all those guys. We know them well. We know them by name. We say hello to them at the beginning. We say goodbye to them at the end. They're here all the time, and there's a reason for that. Because for the last 7 years, as a collective volunteer community organization that we are part of, which is the Calabasas Coalition, but it extends beyond that, is we come here to represent what the community sees, feels, and wants to express, but they don't all come here. I mean, it isn't lost on me, the world events and just events literally in our backyard are so tragic, gloomy, hard to deal with. It's hard to want to get up here and fight for the right to decide in our city what's right for our city. So I'm going to share one quick little story. Every person, and not these people who I see all the time, every person I've run into in the last couple weeks who I know and who knows me says, I heard that West Village might come back. I heard that West Village might not be gone. I don't understand. Our city council voted against it. So how could they come back? And I said, because developers are relentless. They want what they want, but you know what they can't do with all that money, power, whatever they do as a daily basis? They can't buy our decision-making ability. They can't decide for you, our elected council, how to decide on this matter. So, you've taken it very far. You denied the project, you fought the lawsuit, and if that decision comes down on the wrong side, we have to keep the fight going. If that's an appeal, we appeal. I don't know what all the legal terms are. Some of you are lawyers, and you might, but in the end, the people may not be in here, but the people out there in the community, they don't want this project. They've told you in the past. They are as informed as they can be, but you're not allowed to put anything out, so we do it for you. And we are trying to make sure that everyone knows that this matter is coming forward and that we want you to keep the fight up, and hopefully we don't get that judgment against us. But if we do, please appeal, and please do it at a public meeting if you have to make a decision so that the community can see. That's it from me. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Michael Harrison, current Planning Commission Chair, followed by Francis Allette.
Good evening, Michael Harrison, Calabasas. 27 years ago this week, a fire started at the end of Calabasas Road and then swept south on Las Virgenes and burned countless homes in Malibu. My daughter was a student at A.E. Wright then, and A.E. Wright was evacuated. But all the buses sat still on Las Virgenes trying to go north to the 101 freeway. They could not evacuate. They had to return to the campus to shelter in place. But the residents of West Village won't be so lucky. There are no facilities planned to shelter in place there. It's a box canyon which burns regularly. There's just no way out. So, think of the elderly, the young, the people there who will be trapped 2 blocks east of Las Virgenes in that box canyon. Please appeal any adverse judicial decision. It seems to me to be a small price to pay to save so many lives. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Francis Allette, followed by Greg Byrne.
Hi there, Francis Allette, longtime resident of Calabasas. I want to echo Joanne Suarez's very good comments about public safety. I echo that. Now on to my comments. The judge's final ruling in the West Village lawsuit will probably be decided in the next few weeks. You'll need to decide whether to appeal that decision. I strongly urge you to appeal if the judge rules in the developer's favor. 4 out of 5 of you were on the council at the time of the decision and voted to deny the project. You know all the ways in which it didn't comply with our general plan and our municipal codes. Now is the time to stand behind those votes. Inaction on your part will set a precedent for our city. If you leave this ruling unchallenged, it will eviscerate our open space zoning. If developers are allowed to bulldoze zone development restricted open space and convert it to manufactured slopes with concrete ditches, then that zoning category is meaningless. If developers are allowed to reduce the amount of open space with their projects, that's something we will keep seeing again and again and again because this ruling went unchallenged and you have allowed a precedent to be set. And I want to remind you that open space according to our own general plan and municipal codes, manufactured slopes cannot be counted towards open space. Our own general plan states the preservation of the remaining open space lands within Calabasas and acquisition of new lands for open space designation are consistently identified as the community's highest priority. I believe there is extremely high resident support for the city to appeal. You just need to look at our voting history. Look at the overwhelming passage of Measure D and Measure O. Look at the overwhelming rejection of Measure F. These are all essentially statements from residents telling you they want open space protected. Our zoning needs to be enforced. It needs to be protected. This is worth fighting for, so please fight. Vote to appeal. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Greg Byrne, followed by Larissa Byrne.
Greg Byrne, 26-year resident of Calabasas. The fate of the West Village projects is in the hands of a judge. What happened here? What flawed process allowed this project to slip out of the hands and control of the city and fall into the hands of one man? I have my opinions, and I'm going to provide them right here. There are deep structural issues with this city and its planning department. There are also deep structural issues with the sitting members of the Planning Commission that keep getting reappointed and reappointed and reappointed. Look at the West Village project. Look at the general plan. The West Village project is everything the general plan is against. The large and broad premises and numerous small parts of the code say that's not something our general plan allows here. How did this happen? How did it get through? The Planning Commission should have never approved this project in the first place. Secondly, the paperwork that was submitted by the Planning Department to the Housing and Urban Development had a section on it to describe whether there's any controversy with this site. The check was no controversy at this site. When this council and this city has rejected this project twice, and prior to this has also rejected the projects that are planned for this area. How is it that the Planning Commission did not consider legitimate legal arguments with good foothold about fire safety and about evacuation? The Planning Commission failed horribly on this project, and now the city is paying the price. You folks are the ones that put those boys in their seats. You folks are the ones that are indirectly responsible for the decisions that come down at the Planning Commission level. I implore you, you folks did the right things by turning this down 5-0. The Planning Commission punted to you. They didn't make the tough decision. They didn't do their jobs, and they put it on you, and you guys did. You guys made a good decision. The bad faith, if there's any bad faith here, occurs at the Planning Commission level, and you guys need to hear that. It needs to be made right. If we get the judgment against the city here, this city needs to fight, because that development is everything the general plan says we don't want. Please do the right thing by the people here. Support the residents that overwhelmingly want open space and preservation of natural hillsides. Do the right thing by the people who put you in your chairs. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Larissa Byrne.
I don't know how to follow that. My name is Larissa Byrne, longtime resident of Calabasas here. I kind of just wanted to thank you all. And it's not only you, it's the city council that goes way before I even lived here, because this project, this West Village project we're all talking about, it's been decades fighting. There's been other owners of the property and other projects that came that were huge, oversized, and every time the council obviously sent them away, whether it was the public and the council. So thanks for doing that again, because it is you guys that said, no, we can't accept this project as it is. And I think, not to echo what Greg said, I just want to say thank you, because you do make a good decision, and we all support you, and we will all turn up for you if you will appeal. If it goes bad and new home, the judge rules for new homes, there's only one choice, because we all will show up, and we all have showed up. So it may cost money, I know, but we are a rich, rich city, according to most articles. I think you guys have to stay where you're at and listen to us, because we'll keep showing up, and we want to support what's right for the area, for the community, for all of us. And it seems like you are listening, so please hear us when we say, please don't give up this fight. It really matters to so many of us. Thanks.
Thank you very much. I don't have any other comment cards for those present, so I'll ask one time only, final time, if you wish to speak in public on this item, please fill out a card, give it to the city clerk. Otherwise, we'll move on to, seeing no one coming forward, we'll move on to, I believe we have, is it 5 raised hands now?
That is correct,
All
Mr.
right.
Mayor.
Can we call in the first resident? And this is only on the, well, actually, this is on oral communication and public comment. Pardon me.
Non-agenda items.
Yes.
Within the power of the city.
Yes, thank you.
When I call your name, please state your name and the city you live in. Jonathan G.
Hi.
Thank you very much. Next, public comment, raised hand, rather.
Joe Shilko.
Welcome, Joe.
Hi, I'm Joe Chilko, a longtime Calabasas resident. I know that each of you on our city council has stated your intent to protect open space from development. As noted, the West lawsuit final ruling is coming soon. This is critically important time in the city's history. The consequences are devastating if the developer prevails. The promises made to Calabasas residents that protection of open space is of the highest priority will be unfulfilled. The intent of the general plan, open space policies and goals will not provide protection of open space. The legal protections of Measure D will be rendered meaningless. The OSDR zoning designation can be ignored by the courts. The public safety, fire risk, and emergency evacuation routes are equally important. Costs can't be the only consideration, but what is the cost of not appealing the ruling? You considered the West Village project you were presented with. You stood firm on interpreting our city's laws to protect open space. You voted to deny the project in all good conscience. You're now faced with a difficult decision again. If the developer prevails, the ruling must be appealed. An experienced appellate attorney must be hired. I ask that you continue to fight for the values we all share. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, Madam Clerk.
Eric Hartman.
Welcome.
Yes, hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, great for giving me the opportunity to speak here tonight. This is public comment not on the agenda, correct?
You have a little echo on your side.
Public comment not on the agenda, correct?
Non-agendized items.
All
Mr.
right,
City
thank you.
Attorney.
Please state your name and the city you live in, sir.
Hartman, 88 State Street. All right.
What city?
Well-
I'm sorry, I didn't hear. Apologize.
I said 88 State Street,
No city?
Calabasas.
I don't know that, but you can start.
All right. Well, I was calling to ask the city to make a statement or resolution condemning the terrible attacks by Israel against the Palestinian people in Gaza. I've seen other city councils call in. And,
Sir, this item is regarding public comment on matters within the power of the city. The city lacks the power on that topic. Please return to the topic regarding the city's power. Thank you.
every other cities have passed resolutions and statements condemning the attack. The city can do the same.
That's other cities. Again, something within the power of the city.
All right.
All right, IT, kill it.
We'll be removed now for disrupting the meeting. Thank you. Next, please.
Michael Whitman.
That last caller was a terrible. The things that he said were uncalled for.
And what city are you from? Could you please state?
I'm from.
Well,
Again, sir, stick to things within the jurisdiction of the city and avoid using fighting words.
He was removed, Mr. Mayor.
thank you. Again, we're not going to allow that kind of communication and hate speech in this city, and especially now. I will not allow it. Our council will not allow it. So we will not allow anyone to disrupt the meeting, or you will be removed, as has been said by our city attorney. We'll try for door number 5, right? Hope we have
Mary Fagan.
Okay. Welcome, Mary.
There you go again.
Madam Clerk, I assume that was not Mary Fagan, who we know?
Correct. Melina Byrne. Melina, please unmute yourself. Melina, we'll get back to you. We'll bring another caller.
Larissa was here. Is it Larissa or Lorena?
No, Melina.
Okay. All right. Melina. I'm sorry, Melinda. Melina. I know Melina.
Jack Hildinger. Please state your name and the city you live in, sir.
Hi, yes. I live in Calabasas. I live at 565 North Hampton Street. I'd like to speak on...
What city are you in? I'm sorry, what city are you in?
I can't even hear this person.
Why are you interrupting? This is my time. Thank you.
I think we can't hear you, unfortunately.
hear you.
There's a technical issue. Move
Yeah.
the next speaker.
Next speaker, please. This is going on all over the state, by
David
the way.
Litt, Mr. Mayor.
I'm sorry?
David Litt.
David Litt. We know David Litt. Welcome, David.
Thank you. David Litt, 22-year resident of Calabasas. What a sad state of affairs we are in the country, world. On October 7th, I was leaving Hawaii and watching the news and turned it on and said to my wife, I said, can this be true, what I'm hearing? And sadly, for the last, since October 7th, I've been watching the news 24/7. It's just it's so distressed, so depressing of how we are human beings. Some of the people, and you know, we cannot be intimidated. None of us, no matter what your race is, your color, intimidated by other people. We must stand for our beliefs, dignity, respect. It's just sad that the world And we even have in our state and city, and we just witnessed it a couple minutes ago, those are cowards. The people that don't show their face and have to lie about where they're from. Those people are cowards. People like Alicia Weintraub and the people who dittoed her public comments, we need more of that. We need people to be, take the courage, like the 12th step, take the courage to change the things you can. Even though we are at the city level here, your voices, the council members, do make a difference. I'm in the state of Washington right now on a private island, watching the news 24/7, and here another shooting tonight, 22 dead in Maine. In Maine, my wife was just there for a wedding for her sister. Who would think in Maine, 22 dead? But again, your voices, and I thank you, council, for saying it and stepping out there and showing the courage, and for what I read about the event at City Hall, where a lot of residents came out, just in support of human dignity. It's just, we need to get back there. Sadly, it's going to get worse before it gets better, but please continue as leaders to say what you need to say. Take the courage to change the things you can and the wisdom to know the difference. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
One more, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
Judy Stroyer?
All right, Judy Stroyer?
Correct.
And
Again,
I'm sorry, what?
It's done. Jew destroyer.
Oh.
Again, it sounds like the speaker's not speaking on its items within the city's jurisdiction.
Yeah, and some of the guys that raised their hand earlier, they have it up again, so we're going to lower their hands. We have Melina Byrne again. We'll bring her in.
Okay,
Hopefully we can hear her.
Please welcome. Yes. People are lucky we live in a great city, a great country that allows free speech.
Melina,
Not
go
hate
ahead. Please
speech.
state your name and the city you live in.
Thank you. My name is Melina Byrne, and I'm a longtime resident of Calabasas. And I am just a huge fan of the Las Virgenes Scenic Corridor. It is not just a scenic corridor, it is a vital corridor. And I think most people don't understand how vital it is, because we spend millions, if not billions, on our local mountain ranges. These local mountain ranges don't survive on their own. So the links that go into the mountain ranges are just so important to what happens to the entire ecosystem here. To excavate the West Village project and take out 25% of the corridor is something that would be tragic as far as I'm concerned, because you would take out 25%, but you would impact 100% of that corridor that is linking all of our mountain ranges. They can't thrive if we are negatively impacting these connections. If we are paving over wetlands, if we are polluting and causing noise and nightlight throughout the corridor, it will impact all of our birds, the waters that are there for them. It'll impact our own city full of contaminant pollutants that happens when you take out tons of earth. This is not just earth. This is pristine earth. This is not putting homes just on some strip mall. This is taking out something that helps cool down the city. This is taking out old oak trees that also absorb toxins that we get from the highway. So what we breathe really matters. And the wildlife that migrates through here keeps everything going. Without wildlife, what do we have? We have death. So I just want to put it out there that to lose this case and have demolition begin would be tragic beyond our understanding. And it is worth everything. And I don't know how we got here. And I think it's good for us to find out how we got here. But we are here, and it's a tough place to be sued. It's no fun. But we're here, and we just cannot give up now. And I want to thank everyone who came out to speak, because this is how we educate each other. And Greg Byrne especially really understands the area. So I hope that for whatever went wrong, we can make it right. And that means dedication, commitment, and absolute for not setting a bad precedent that you can buy the hills and take them down. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I understand there may be another name online.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, someone we know, Priscilla Lee.
Priscilla Lee is well known, yes. Let it be the real Priscilla Lee. Welcome.
Priscilla, please unmute yourself. Priscilla, we cannot hear you. You need to unmute yourself. She's having issues, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
We'll call you. Oh, there she is. There she is.
Yeah, okay, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
So I am Priscilla Lee, and I live in Calabasas, and I'm writing on behalf of myself and two other family members. I wanted to attend and speak tonight in person, but I had an appointment in Beverly Hills, and I could not make it on time. So I just wanted to say that if the judge rules for the developer, I'd like for you to please appeal the judge's ruling on West Village. And as you may know, our city would be remiss if we allowed the developer to build on this pristine property, including the open space. So given the fact that the freeway wildlife overpass is almost finished, Calabasas should particularly keep this area open to allow for wildlife to exist rather than, quote, paving over paradise and putting up a parking lot, as the song says. We don't want to have any more lives of local wildlife destroyed and possibly people's lives ruined or taken by hitting any of our wild cougars and so forth. Let's not destroy this area. Instead, keep our wildlife protected and follow what the majority of Calabasas residents want. Kind regards, Priscilla and Mel and Celine Lee. So thank you. I hope you will consider that, and I'm sure you'll consider what everybody said tonight. And thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Priscilla. And next time you have to sing that if you're going to quote it. That's the only deal. All right, Madam Clerk, I will ask carefully.
No more, Mr. Mayor. We're done with public comment.
Thank you very much. I will close public comment on now and move on. I have a request for a break, but if we could, unless an item is going to be pulled, can I ask that we can, unless my colleagues wish to pull items 1 through 3, we can move hopefully to approve the consent agenda? You do? Okay. Okay, other than one, anyone else wish to pull anything? Okay, go ahead, Councilmember Albrecht.
I need to make a correction on page 7, task force reports. The report was actually not from the from the sustainability task force. It was from economic development with Mayor Pro Tem and myself.
Thanks for catching that.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? Then can I have a motion? Oh, are there any council comments? Actually, any members of the public wishing to speak on this item, say no, please.
No, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. I will now ask if I can have a motion to approve consent items 1 through 3.
So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and second. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Okay, passes 5-0. And we're going to go ahead and take a quick break, if that's okay, to 8:20, and we'll be back. Thank you. We are back. Thank you. And this is a council discussion, new item number 4, and direction on airplane noise issues. And we do not have a report. We have a letter But we do not have a report from staff tonight, correct? I want to make sure before I go any further.
That's correct.
Okay, so I'm going to turn to council discussion and comments unless you wish to hear from the public first. I do have 2 speaker cards.
Well, I did want to preliminarily state that
Okay.
I'm very disappointed that LAWA, Los Angeles World Airports, I think, refused to cooperate with this agenda item, refused to come, refused to answer inquiries, and thought they were going to shut down the discussion just because they weren't interested in coming. I think it's disgusting that they will not participate in a public debate or respond to legitimate public concerns, and that should be addressed in any future correspondence we have with them or any future posting of something. We should note that they refused. However, I also think that their refusal to participate does not mean that we don't have the discussion. So I'm glad we're having this discussion. I want to hear from the public. The only thing I wonder is if, because this wasn't on the agenda, how many more members of the public would have been here if it were?
Mm-hmm.
And that's a concern of mine. So let's see how the discussion goes, and maybe we do a short public hearing tonight and then continue it to the next meeting so that the public can be fully apprised. Because I would be very disappointed if I read it wasn't on the agenda, added at the last minute, and then I wasn't able to participate if I were a member of the public.
And I agree, I agree completely with Councilmember Bazagian that I'd like to hear from the public, like to hear a few comments, and would like to bring this back with at that point a staff report and have a full item properly on the agenda, because I'm sure we've all gotten a lot of communication from residents who are interested in this item. Mayor Pro Tem Weintraub.
Yes, I'd like to hear from the public who's here, because this issue's been going on for quite some time. And then I'd like to publicize it to the general public and then have a staff report. But I want to take advantage of the people that are here tonight to share their feedback and then make sure the rest of the community knows.
Okay, I have speaker cards. Are you okay? Yes, so Councilmember Albright, Councilmember, followed by Councilmember.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea to have public discussion. We always like to have it. It's very important. But to tell you the truth, I'd like to know, there's airports all over the country. You know, what other cities do? What does LAWA do when they're contacted by other cities? And they have to fly. So there's some flight pattern that someone's going to get hurt. So maybe they can vary it somehow. But I know all of us are going to comment how we feel about it, which is going to be negative, but there's got to be a solution somehow. So maybe staff could look into it a little bit and give a report. That would be my suggestion. And some other cities have had good results somehow, and give us something we can bite into as an alternative.
Oh, anything else?
That's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Kraut.
Yeah, I too would agree that we want to hear from the public tonight, and we certainly want to have this back in front of us with a staff report with full information. I would love the historical information on the flight paths, and importantly with that, I would strongly request that the flight path information contains elevations of those flight paths, because we hear from the public that they're now hearing the airplane traffic directly overhead. And as a city, we're going to have a hard time advocating for moving that noise from one neighborhood to another. But a flight path with a higher elevation certainly has a decreased volume in noise. And so that third dimension, I think, is a very important part of this discussion.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to go ahead without any other comments and turn to public comment on this matter. We have 3 speakers, and we'll start with Jory Wolf. Okay, I take it back. We're going to start with, let's try number 2. This Jonathan Davidoff. And welcome, Doctor.
Right on. Thank you very much, Council. Thanks for your comments, Alicia, about the horrible stuff that's going on in the world, in Israel, that I'm just sickened by. So thank you for your comments. This seems trivial in a way, actually. But it's not trivial, so we'll get back when we had our first comments on this. It was about 2 years ago. So I don't think Councilmember Albrecht was with us at that time, so we had discussions about this before. But the airplane noise is really bad. There were prior flight paths that were a little bit annoying, and then they got changed. They got changed without us knowing, and it's gotten a lot worse. So they came lower, and they came more to the west of us. So with the prevailing west winds, even if they were at the same height, they're worse now because of that. And other cities have done some good things to be able to affect change with the flight paths. And I think Timmy's can speak to this. She knows a lot about this. But supposedly the flight paths, the LAX ones, are going to revert back to historic paths, which is really good news. I'm kind of concerned because, like, we talked about this a couple years ago, and then it seemed like it kind of stalled out, and it didn't seem to, I don't know what happened with the council was going to do a few things, and I don't think they ended up doing them. So I'm kind of concerned that with this proposed reversion back to the old flight paths, that we're going to kind of not be on top of it, and something's going to happen, and it won't actually go back to the prior flight paths. That still weren't great, but they were better than what we have now. We then have the other issue that's concerning, because Van Nuys and Burbank have all these new flight paths that are being proposed. You'll hear flights coming from those areas, and they're getting closer to us too. And it's one of those things that I think as a city, to preserve our way of life, and we have rules about lights and leaf blowers and all these other things, and this thing is way more disruptive. We're not eating outside anymore. We sleep with our windows closed. We got new windows. It's still loud inside. If you have a Zoom meeting, you have to wait for the planes to pass in order to keep it going. You can't sleep past 7 in the morning. So there's a lot of things that it really affects us. And again, it's in the scheme of things, it's not as bad as terrorists going in and taking people hostage and killing people in Israel, but it's still a significant issue for us here. So I appreciate your time and determination to help improve things for us. So thank you.
Thank you. And I'm going to call upon Timmy, and last name because it's Romolini. Thank you. Welcome.
So hello, I know I was just going to be an observer, but since it's on the agenda and I'm here and you guys don't have the benefit of a report, I thought I would offer myself to you, should you have any questions, because I am a subject matter expert. I'm also the author of the modification. I work directly with the FAA on this. It's an ongoing process. I can answer your question, Commissioner Albrecht, about what other cities have done, and I can answer any questions about the confusion between the new Burbank arrival path that was placed through Calabasas. I have good news about that. I was on top of that as well. I can give you an update on the Lady J, and I can also apprise you and encourage Calabasas City Council to engage in the current activity where LAWA is trying to circumvent communities, circumvent environmental impact reviews, and expand Van Nuys Airport by changing the categorization of non-aviation land into aviation land. We hit a climax, a crescendo of jet traffic out of Van Nuys in 2021, and because of the influx of jet charters, it is now penetrating and encroaching your skies. And all those high squeals that you hear are bombardiers that trigger PTSD. So it's a growing concern for you, and I really encourage you to get on board with that, because the activity that I'm doing to fight that, and it's been 10 months strong. I have several council offices in the Valley that are supporting communities. Hearing from you guys would do a great deal to protect your city, because it's the entire city. This isn't, unlike the Lady J, this is not about one area or the other. This is the entire city. And there is something you can do simply by flexing your muscle and using your voice. So does anyone have any questions about any airport?
At this point, we aren't really allowed to ask questions or back and
No,
forth.
even though it's on
but
the
we can-
agenda?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
I'm sorry, even though it's on the agenda, you're not allowed to, I thought the Brown Act
We
did
can
allow
direct
that.
questions to staff. At this point, we're just taking public comment. We may
Oh.
come back, and I didn't get the city of residence. I know where it is, but I'll ask you to state it, please, if you don't mind.
Oh, I am on the border. I'm technically Woodland Hills, right on Valley Circle Boulevard.
And thank you very much. And next, Jory Wolf, please.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Jory Wolf, long-term resident of the city of Calabasas and resident of Mountain Park Estates. Also right under the newly established Lady J flight path. I don't know if I can present some maps that would provide some clarity to City Council.
You can hand them to our city clerk, please. Thank you.
There are a large number of people who are concerned about this matter. This has been going on for a couple of years now. This has come before the City Council before, and we would like to bring this up again because we do believe that LAWA has been stalling, and we also do believe that we'd like your support in making sure that there are changes in the Lady J flight path back to the original flight path. Reason being that Lady J, especially in the maps, you can see Mountain Park and also Calabasas Park, and mostly the city of Calabasas, shows that the new flight path, which is in blue on the maps that I gave you, which is to the west, does actually influence jet noise more significantly for the entire city of Calabasas than the original flight path did that you see there in yellow. Reason being is the prevailing winds from west to east, and so we get considerable noise from the new Lady J flight path that we did not get from the original flight path. And as you can see, those maps that I gave you, the flight path in the original location did not cross over the majority of Calabasas. It was really on the fringe. Please know that I'm very interested to know if anything can be done about altitude, because Mountain Park is at 1,200 feet. I know that there are other parts of Calabasas much lower, but we also, I think Mountain Park is probably more impacted than the rest of Calabasas because of our altitude. I know that there are steep inclines out of Burbank, and we like to see that, if possibly, that out of Lady J, that they can achieve a higher altitude earlier on to impact the community less. We'd like your support in making sure that we continue to move forward, or LAWA continues to move forward with Lady J amendments, but we also want your support because I've been reading and learning a lot more about this over the course of the last 6 months and listening to Timmy. And what I'm understanding is that the new flight path and the development of the Van Nuys Airport is going to mimic the existing Lady J. Even with LAWA putting it back in the yellow flight path, the new VNY is going to take the same flight path as the blue that you see currently for Lady J. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And thank you all for the comments. I will turn to council discussion at this point.
Mr. Mayor, we have a caller online.
Do we have a last name and city?
No, we'll when we call her in. Her name is Ani. Ani, so when you come up.
Hello, yes, I would like to speak.
Can you
Again,
no,
kill that. That
no.
seems like a voice
Yeah.
modulator, which, based on
Yeah.
our history,
All right.
is not going to speak on something within the city's power or the agenda item.
Okay. If we can get last names, subject matter, this is a specific item.
No more comments, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. I'll turn to council comments at this point. I'll start with you,
Sure.
Councilmember Bazagian.
I had a couple questions and a couple comments. So, Michael, what happened last session of Congress? We wrote a letter in support of a bill being carried by our then Congressman Ted Lieu, and it was about a bill that was going to make its way through the House and Senate, and it was involving just an all-encompassing thing. Notice when to the public when notice requirements when a flight pattern was changing, public hearing requirements, certain thresholds that had to be made. I understand that bill was shelved. Is there a bill in this session that's being carried that's similar to that?
I don't think I can speak on the technicalities of what's in the bill. The bill that we supported was the Quiet Communities Act of 2021. There's been no progress since its introduction in July.
Yeah, but that bill would have died with the last Congress. It would have to be reintroduced. It doesn't just sit there. So is there a new bill to your knowledge?
To my knowledge, there's no new bill.
Okay.
And the reason we haven't been following the federal legislation process is because Congressman Ted Lieu's office advised us to work with LAWA on the matter.
Okay. So my comment on that would be that I would like to try to get a similar bill sponsored, if we can find a sponsor. We have another member of Congress representing us, and unfortunately, the districts are configured differently, so we're at the very tail end of that district that doesn't really get that impacted overall by the flight pattern. So that's one thing I would like to see. I mean, maybe Michael, for the next hearing, you could verify that there's no such bill anywhere, because maybe some other member of Congress is carrying it now.
If I could jump in briefly on that, I believe it was reintroduced by a couple of New York congresspersons.
And we would get the benefit of that, obviously. It's not,
Right,
it's
if it
not
passed to
just
be
in New York,
nationwide.
but it doesn't apply just to their airports.
No, it was a nationwide bill to reintroduce the Quiet Communities Act to recreate this Federal Office of Noise Abatement and Control.
Okay, so between now...
But what I don't know and what we could find out is where Congressman Brownlee's position is, if she has joined that bill, if she's supporting it. I'm not sure about that piece.
Well, what we could do is get a draft of the bill that's being presented on our agenda for the next time, so that if we want to support it, we can actually support it and then ask the Congresswoman to back us up if
Absolutely.
we decide to go that way. Another thing, I'm still not entirely clear, and maybe for next time we can get a better picture of what communities are most impacted within our city. Like right now, I hear from Mountain Park. I went to the last CPHA meeting, Calabasas Park, heard from them that some of their residents were impacted. So I know some parts of Calabasas Park are impacted. I don't have a grip on exactly which ones are and aren't. And I'd like to get a better idea of that, because I want to loop those homeowners associations in and hear some comments from them too. Aside from that, assuming that we may actually sorry, I'm being distracted by, I think, food in the back. So what I'd like to do is get some notice to them of the next meeting so they can participate and give us their experiences too. Because I want us to have the full knowledge of what the extent of the problem is here. My final comment is that, again, even though they may not come, I think we should invite them to the meeting, LAWA and any other interested stakeholders at a governmental agency level, and attach the invitation letter to the agenda report so that if they don't show up, the public's aware that they failed to show up when invited. That's the extent of my comments.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Weintraub.
Thank you. So when this agenda item comes back, I'd like information on how the Van Nuys expansion and the change in their flight paths will impact Calabasas, because I agree that that's something that would be really easy for the city to get on board with, because it wouldn't be pitting one side of Calabasas against the other. And if we could get if we have it easily, if we can get historical maps of what the flight path was, because we hear that it's changed with Lady J route, so what it was before, and like this map, if we could just have like the communities listed, and planning could help with that too. Because I remember when we started hearing from Mountain Park, and prior to that, I remember being at COG meetings and there were issues in Malibu. So it's like regionally, this has been going on for a while. And Calabasas Hills has also been a hotbed of people complaining. So I'm not an expert on flight paths, so I'm just trying to understand like what James said, where else. And I want to be realistic about like what we as a city can do. I want to like make sure, is it something we work with like our COG cities on, like our other cities? Like I just want us to have the strongest voice possible to effectuate the change, to like do what we can to help our residents. I just don't know how best to do that. So I would look to staff for recommendations, but I know it's not just Mountain Park. There's other communities as well. And someone brought up the point a while ago that during COVID, everything stopped. There wasn't as much travel, but I'm not sure before 2020. Like, I don't know when if it changed after COVID or before COVID. It was just things stopped. So.
Oh, well, okay.
Right. So, right. So, right. So I just if we can get like a simple timeline and where the routes were, so we have everything in one place coming from staff, and I think that would be really helpful, and understanding the Van Nuys expansion and flight paths. And I know Councilmember Kraut had discussed Burbank before, so just getting all of the information and how that will impact Calabasas as a entire city. So thank you, and I want to thank the residents for being here tonight. We've emailed for a very long time, so happy to see you in person.
Councilmember Kraut.
Thank you. Michael, I can see you diligently taking notes over there, so I know this is going to be one heck of a staff report. I want to echo what the previous council members have shared here. In addition, we speak of legislation and sponsoring a bill. I think it would be worth our while to work with Malibu on that, because we share the same interests, and their congressman is in a district that's a little more airport intensive and likely to get involved. When we have our staff report, the history, maps, and elevations would be very helpful. In addition, I would really love to know the step-by-step process that an airport has to follow to reroute planes and to get a new flight path. And if that could be in our staff report, that'd be very helpful, as well as some notation as to whether that process was followed and where we might have missed opportunities for advocacy along the way. Any opportunities for advocacy in the future, so that we can calendar these things and we can plan how and when and if we need to voice our opinion here. And we can also share that with our community, so that if they individually want to participate in the process, I think it's important for us to cut through all of that FAA, mystery, and give them a plain language pathway to speaking their opinion to the people that can actually make a change. In addition to us as a city advocating on their behalf. And then lastly, I'd like to apply the same issues to Van Nuys, so that we can get out ahead of that one. Same thing with the process, the history, what's being proposed, and whatever you can do to provide as much information at the next meeting on this would be very much appreciated.
Thank you. Councilmember Albrecht.
Thank you. Thank you. I think we've vetted this really well. I don't think we've missed a beat. Councilman Bozajian, I know you've had this on your bucket list for a long time, and taking it from the federal level, great idea. Councilman Kraut, think of the elevation and how the planes come in. That's very important too, because maybe they can go deeper out and have some higher altitude when they come in. In Greater Malwood, I didn't notice any airplane noise until recently. And then suddenly I got to turn the TV on mute and listen. Is that a Gardner, or what is that? It's a jet, and it's happening all the time. So I'm worried about one thing. I do play golf. It's not a secret. And I play with my son occasionally at Encino golf course, where The Van Nuys planes come over, and I can attest to you that these private jets come over the golf course in the morning. We tee off about 7:30 or so, 6:30, 7:30, and it's obnoxious. It's one after another. And if that happens to our city, it's going to be, I mean, we're taking the lead on this way ahead of something like that situation, but this is in our best interest and our safety. So I support everything we've said. I have nothing else to add. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Keep playing golf, especially for charities. Okay. I just want to thank the public for speaking. Again, I have been asking with others for this item for a while. I'm one of the ones who lives in Calabasas Hills, so I can attest to the increased noise. I can attest to being up, although I shouldn't be. Maybe it's only the last couple weeks, especially being up extra late, but 2 and 4 a.m., absolutely having routes or planes go over that never used to go over at that time. I mean, there was certainly a difference, and I'm aware of your work and prior work because our city council did have a letter written, but also I think it was 2019 when our city did a formal, whatever that means, formal appeal to the FAA or formal letter of complaint, and you know full well how that goes, unfortunately, or did go. I am also concerned, in addition to what's been said, everything here is excellent. I'm also concerned in the change or increase related to environmental impacts as well for the increased flight patterns over our city and specific areas as well, depending on how low they are, and certainly things occur. And I can tell you I've been working for the past week because someone reached out to me, actually an LA City Council member, former chief of staff, now works at LAX pretty high up, and as at SCAG we have work, Southern California Association of Governments, with LAX as well, trying to get a representative from LAWA to appear at our, whenever this is going to be next agendized, whether it's the next meeting or not. I think that would be important. I know I'll get some type of briefing, but that is not important. What's important is someone's here to hear what we have to say and what the public has to say. So I am working on that with everybody's support in that regard. And other than that, I would like to see this on, if possible, on the next agenda on November 8th, if that is sufficient time and sufficient to get the word out to the public as well. Who am I calling on? Mayor Pro Tem, please.
I was just going to say, as much as we want it to come back really quick, I think we gave staff a lot to do. I just want to make sure we get it done right if they need a little more time, especially with the notice. And we asked to reach out to the Congress office to get historical maps. I just want to make sure we give staff realistic time to get it done right.
I agree. I completely agree with that. Let's have it done right, and let's have it be properly noticed, unless there is some time deadline that we're up against that we don't know about. Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. That was my point. I wanted to hopefully a little bit manage expectations for the upcoming meetings. There is a lot of request, and as you know, Michael McConville is exceptional in his research and his diligence in bringing information to the council. But to bring everything back would require that staff report is done within less than a week. And so again, we'll look at that as, and also the other items that will be on the agenda for November 8th. Just as a reminder, that will really be one of our last business meetings of the year, only because the December 6th meeting could be an entire meeting dedicated to a development project. And so any items that have to be done over the next 2 months likely need to be happening November 8th. If not, we will not have that opportunity to have that done. So I'll work with Michael and we'll do our best to see what we can get done over the next few days, but may likely have to be pushed back into a subsequent meeting.
I'm fine with that. The only comment or caveat would be if there is a deadline that would be so important that we act upon before then. That would be it. Thoughts? Anyone else?
I'm okay with that, but I mean, if we're going to move it beyond November 8th, I'd like to hear it November 8th, but if it's not ready, then let's make it January. Let's get a firm understanding, because January 11th of 2023 is when I first asked for this to be agendized. So that will be a full year. And I think that it needs to be a date certain, we tell the public, and then we stick to that date.
Anyone else? We all in favor? Okay. Is that sufficient direction then? Okay. Thank you very much, and thanks to members of the public for being here. And we'll move on to item number 5 now, which is approval of reallocation of the community center annual operating budget. Erica Green to present.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, members of the public. I will go through a presentation to give you some background and our request for a funding reallocation for the Calabasas Community Center.
Erica, is your
Yes.
mic on? I can't
It is.
hear.
Yes.
Sorry, maybe
I'll
speak
pull
a
it
little.
closer. Yes.
It's hard to hear. Thank you very much.
So in summary, the city of Calabasas has taken the lead on the reopening of the Calabasas Community Center, and we have managed the $1.3 million roof project, which says it'll be completed this month, but is actually completed last week. The city of Agora Hills received a $1 million federal earmark grant to complete some infrastructure projects within the facility. Both cities worked together to compile a list of those projects to completed with those funds. However, due to stringent federal grant guidelines, which includes tracking of certified payroll for contractors, the city of Agora Hills decided to procure a general contractor to manage their subcontractors, certified payroll, and other required documents. The procurement of a general contractor raises costs by 20 to 25% due to the management of the subcontractors and overall project. The procurement of the general contractor and increased costs due to inflation reduced our ability to fund the list of projects compiled for the federal earmark funding. The original federal earmark funding was as follows: ADA accessible entry doors, adding shades to all ballroom windows and doors, paint interior and exterior walls, replace and restripe gymnasium floor, resurface dance room floor, removal and replacement of cabinets, fixtures, and countertops throughout the facility, replace flooring throughout the entire facility, excluding the kitchen and restrooms, replace and upgrade security cameras and system, and replace and upgrade fixed AV and sound equipment. So the bid results from the bid for the general contractor came out as follows. The facility painting was at $483,000, facility flooring at $484,000, and project mobilization at $30,500, bringing our total to $997,500 out of the $1 million allocation. So what that means is the original list, we didn't get everything funded from that list. So the highlighted items below are what was funded, leaving most of the items unfunded. So the city of Calabasas is asking to reallocate the annual operating budget of the community center to fund these projects. So with the tentative reopening date of early 2024, we will have about half a year's savings of the operating budget. Therefore, we're asking if we can utilize $365,000 of the operating budget to fund these items and reopen the facility as state-of-the-art. So those things we're requesting: ADA accessible entry doors at $20,000, ADA interior and exterior updates at $30,000, window shades at $25,000, removal and replacement of cabinets, fixtures, and countertops and other general contractor items at $100,000, and upgrade fixed AV and sound equipment, replace security camera system at $130,000, which brings us to $305,000. The $60,000 is Calabasas's contribution to the federal earmark project contingency. And we have had some of the projects already go over needing contingency funds with door thresholds, outlets in the gymnasium floor, and replacing the sign on the outside of the building. So we are asking to utilize $115,000 in part-time salaries, $250,000 in non-personnel, for a total of $365,000 out of the $1.345 million approved budget for the year. So that concludes my presentation. I'm open for any questions.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll turn to council comments and start with Councilmember Albrecht.
Certainly in favor of what's going on. This is a great way of shifting funds and making it available without digging into our pocket. Knowing the building, many of us have been in there. It's due for this, whether we did the remodel or not. So looking forward to it. I think you did a great job on putting this together, and the contractor issue is the contractor issue, so we had to deal with that, and then we'll deal with it through the rest of the project, but I'm certainly supportive of this.
Thank you. Councilmember Kraut.
Don't need to belabor the point. Well said, in favor of this. And just quick footnote, I did get a chance to look at the facility and construction, and it looks great.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Weintraub.
I'll agree with what's been said. Thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Bazagian.
I also agree, and I did also have a chance to go tour the facilities last week with Peter and Kendon and Erica, and it looks, and Jeff, and it looks really nice. And I'm looking forward to it opening. We don't have a firm date yet, I understand, but we're hopefully on target to very early 2024.
Yes.
Okay.
And I just had one quick comment, other than agreeing with everything, was the last comment about the $130,000 related to the upgrade fixed AV and sound equipment, replace security camera systems. I see that's coming back to us with a agreement with COA Associates for $220,000 on item 6. Is that the same item?
Yes, so that is going to be contingent upon if the council approves this reallocation. I'll discuss the amendment of the contract for the contractor to perform those updates.
Okay, all right, thank you. I'm in agreement. So then I'll see, I have no public speaker cards on this item, Madam Clerk, and I presume there's no speakers online on this item?
You're correct, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, very good. We'll move to, if I can ask for a motion on this item to approve motion to approve reallocation of $365,000 of the Calabasas Community Center annual operating budget to complete unfunded projects intended to be completed with the City of Agoura Hills federal earmark grant.
We'll make that motion.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Passes 5-0. Well, thank you very much. We're on to item number 5, authorization to approve amendment number 1 to the professional services agreement with NoHo constructors, they're called, increasing the not to exceed amount to $470,000 to provide construction services for the Calabasas Community Center. And welcome again, Erica Green, to present.
Thank you. So the recommendation is that the City Council authorize and approve the amendment number 1 to the professional services agreement with NoHo Constructors, increasing the not to exceed amount to $470,000. Funding will be used to provide construction services for the Calabasas Community Center that include items such as plumbing and removal, installation of new ADA compliant desks and furniture, repairs to kitchen equipment such as the refrigerator, freezer, etc., upgrading light switches, replacing countertops, electrical panel upgrades, installation of scoreboards, replacement and installation of damaged ceiling tiles, and other ADA mandates. NoHo Constructors is currently contracted to complete the city's pool deck repairs and other general contractor items. The amendment will allow for the contractor to complete the essential updates and repairs to the community center to meet the reopening date in early 2024. No additional funding is requested based on the last approval of the reallocation of the annual operating budget. The funding will come from a variety of line item accounts, including contractual services. So that's the end of my report. I can answer any questions.
All right, thanks very much. Are there any council comments? Seeing none, I don't have any public Did you have a comment? Okay. I don't see any speaker cards in front of me on this item. And Madam Clerk, are there any members of the public wishing to speak online on this item?
No, Mr. Mayor.
All right, that's always a good thing. Tonight, it's a good thing. We'll ask for a motion then to authorize and approve amendment number 1 of the professional services agreement with NoHo Constructors to provide additional demolition and construction services for the Calabasas Community Center.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Passes 5-0. And we'll move on to item number 6, the authorization to approve, which was promised to be discussed. To approve amendment number 1 to the professional services agreement with COA Associates, increasing the not-to-exceed amount of $220,000 to provide new upgraded audio-visual video equipment to the Calabasas Community Center, including a new security system featuring state-of-the-art camera system. Erica Green to present.
Thank you so much. So the request is that the City Council authorize to approve amendment number 1 to the professional services agreement with COA Associates, increasing the not-to-exceed amount to $220,000. Funding will be used to provide new and upgraded audio-visual equipment to the Calabasas Community Center, including a new security system featuring state-of-the-art camera system, video walls, TVs, sound systems, control access panels, higher definition cameras, and additional security. COA Associates is currently contracted to provide AV services, and the amendment will allow the essential audio-visual upgrades to be completed and maintained at the community center to meet the reopening date in early 2024. No additional funding is requested. The funding will be fully absorbed in the City Council-approved operational budget for the Calabasas Community Center. The funding will come from a variety of line accounts, including contractual services. That ends my report. If there's any questions.
All right, I'll look to council. Questions or comments on this item? I
Yeah,
don't.
I got a comment.
Councilmember Albrecht.
Looks like we're getting a brand-new bike,
Yes.
all the way around.
Mhm.
That's my comment.
Okay. Any other comments? I'll just have one quick one just to add up, because I'm big on numbers these days. The total for the 3 items appears to be an additional $825,000 we are allocating tonight to the community center budget, right? Approximately?
It is 365 with the 110.
Oh, I'm off.
Yes,
I'm sorry.
yeah.
More about
You're
a
adding
million.
up the full amounts of the contracts. That's
Right.
amending their contract to not to exceed.
Right.
So it's probably around more $500,000 tonight.
I just added, there was one was 470, one 220, and one,
470 was the total amount of the contract.
right.
So
And what
the-
did we approve already?
Yes, so 470, 350 of that is for the pool deck at the Tennis and Swim Center. So that is not towards the community center. So
Okay.
that's 120, and then 110 for COA, and then the 365.
Okay. And all that is already indicated in the budget. I know I saw our CFO here earlier, so.
Yes, that's all in our approved.
Okay, then
Annual
I will
budget.
ask, I have no speaker cards on this item. Madam Clerk, there's no one online wishing to speak on this item with a raised hand?
No, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you. May I have a motion to authorize and approve amendment, wait a minute, amendment number 1 to the professional services agreement with COA Associates to provide the new audio, video, and security equipment for the Calabasas Community Center?
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Passes 5-0. Thank you very much
Thank
for
you very
your
much.
reports. And we'll move on to item number 7, which is number 8. Pardon me, I'm off on numbers tonight because we had a special one. Approval of the design and placement of street light banners in Old Town Calabasas. Tatiana Holden to make the presentation.
Good night, Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
council members, members of the public. Tonight, staff will ask you to, for final approval of the design for banners to be placed at Old Town Calabasas and for their installation. Old Town Calabasas is one of the most visited places in our town, and project completed in 2022, in September, I believe, of last year, followed the Old Town Calabasas master plan, and along with other improvements that were installed in the Old Town area, we designed and installed the street light poles with place for banners to be installed on every single pole. There are a total of 39 light poles, 20 of them on the north side of the street and 19 on the south side of the street. And we designed banners to promote the Old Town, the last of the Old West design, as well as the banners for events and banners for events and seasons. On these pictures, you see the light poles with the placeholders for the banners, and that's how every single one of them looks like. And the permanent banners design were taken to Historic Preservation Commission in October of last year. And there were a total of, I believe, 7 designs presented to members of Historic Preservation Commissions, and they provided very detailed comments on the designs which they selected. They selected these 3 designs. One of them in the middle is Welcome to Old Town Calabasas, designed by our communications department together with Community Development Department and Historic Preservation Commission input. And 2 on the left and the right are presenting one of the 2 of the historic places in Old Town, Kramer's Store and Leonis Adobe. And Historic Preservation Commission selected these 3 to be installed. Welcome to the Old Town would be installed on the each end to the entrance to the Old Town area, and Kramer's Store and Leonis Adobe would be installed for the rest of the stretch, alternating. And that's what staff is supporting this recommendation, Historic and Preservation Commission, and asking tonight for the council to approve or suggest some other installation. And also, we're presenting you with the designs for the seasons and special events in Calabasas. And first one is a Calabasas Pumpkin Festival that we can advertise in Old Town. And we would like you to look at these 2 designs and provide your recommendation, what you like, or maybe you like a combination of design elements in here, and recommend the staff to select one. And you have it in your package, so that will make it easier for you to make a selection. This one is for the 4th of July. There are 2 different designs, and one for the holiday season. Staff recommendation would be select one from each this event or seasonal banners, designed for one for each event. And staff recommendation would also be to install a total of 5 banners for each season, 1 on each side, not replacing Welcome to Calabasas, but next to the Welcome of Calabasas, and 3 in the middle, somewhere where the Calabasas Park and Ride lot is, and install them for duration of 1 month preceding the event for advertisement, and then they will be replaced back to the general Old Town theme. And I'll be happy to answer any questions you have, and hopefully to hear from you for your selection of the banners, so we can proceed with fabrication and installation.
Okay, thank you very much, and this is for us to give direction. I'll look to council for comments. I'll start with Councilmember Bazagian.
Thank you. First of all, question, I'm assuming that we have permission from the City of Los Angeles, where half of Old Town is, to install these banners on their side?
The sidewalks in Old Town are in the City of Calabasas.
Both sidewalks?
Both sidewalks.
Okay, so we don't need permission?
We don't need.
Okay.
No.
Now, on the first one, are you saying on this Welcome to Old Town Calabasas that all 3 have already been approved, so we don't have to choose from those?
That's correct.
Okay, so I misunderstood that in the report, so I'll just skip over that. They all look fine. I like the middle one the best if I had to choose, obviously. On the next
The
one.
recommendation, Councilman Bazagian, if I may, the recommendation of Historic Preservation Commission were to use all 3 of these designs.
That's fine. I didn't I just misunderstood that, so that's fine. Next one, actually, I wouldn't mind using both of them. Like it kind of is a pattern going, but if I had to choose one, it would be on the one on the left, the darker pumpkins. I think would look more compelling. But they're close, and I think if you wanted to use both, you probably could interchange and make a little, more interest. As far as the 4th of July, I would say the 4th of July with the tan or yellow kind of coloring would be my preference, because it would be consistent with what the other banners there at the time, and it would have the same general pattern. The one on the right, the red, white, you have them, I have them the opposite direction. Okay, so the one with the blue background to me seems so generic in every way. I like our style, the one on the yellow one. And on the holiday one, I have a very strong preference the way it looks here for the we're inverted again, so it's going to be the Happy Holidays one. I think putting Happy Holidays and a Happy New Year is redundant and doesn't sound right. So I would just put Happy Holidays and leave it at that.
Would
That
you
way it
like
could
to
stay
keep,
up.
thank you, would you like to keep City of Calabasas website?
I don't think that's necessary, but I mean, I didn't really, I guess that was to fill in the space down there. I don't know that it's necessary. Are you doing that for any other banners?
Yes, we do, but I think for Pumpkin and 4th of July, it's more essential to have that website in there, because that will lead them to buying tickets and more information about the events, as the Happy Holidays, just a general Happy Holiday message.
It looks a little bit commercial to me. I would probably take it out.
Okay.
So the one with the, like I said, the one with the yellow in it and the lack of redundancy is better, and maybe without the website. Was there another question, or that was
There
it?
was a question about the placement, the pattern or option, how
I would leave it to staff.
place
That,
them.
I mean, you guys are going to go out there visually and look at where it looks best, and I trust staff to do that rather than me to sit here and think about it.
Okay, thank you very much, Mayor Pro Tem Weintraub.
Thanks, Tatiana. Okay, so you want to go back with the slides? Okay, so we don't need any comments here, right?
Correct.
Okay.
If you like all of them,
I like all of them.
Yeah.
The second one with the Pumpkin Festival, it's such a slight difference, so I'll defer to staff what looks better. I mean, the darker one might be, I mean, they're both fine. I like both of those. So the next one, the 4th of July. My issue is, are we having fireworks?
The answer is we don't know.
Right, so then let's not put fireworks. So if we're not 100% having fireworks, we should not have fireworks, because people will expect fireworks. I do like the one on the right, the more historic looking one, like keeping with the theme. I like that one, but I think we should do something other than fireworks. We'll get in a lot of trouble. And then the last one, the Happy Holidays. I understand what we're trying to accomplish, except we have no snow here. And I think it just looks out of place wishing Happy Holidays from the city of Calabasas with snow-capped mountains. So I would like to see that one redone. Make it a little more neutral. If there's a way maybe not to have the ribbon red, I don't know, or just the snow really jumped out at me. Come up with a different way, since it's normally like 80 degrees and sunny on Christmas and New Year's and Hanukkah and all the other holidays that people celebrate in here. I just want to make sure that that one captures the wide variety of holidays that are celebrated amongst our residents and visitors.
I do have a vintage picture of Old Town Calabasas covered in snow.
In 1998.
Oh, it's much earlier. It's much earlier. It's almost 100 years old.
Okay.
Right after the fireworks, right?
Yeah, yeah. Thank you.
All right, Councilmember Kraut.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry, can I just, one thing, maybe like Peace on Earth or something more generic? I don't know, I'll leave it to staff, but just something, a broader audience.
I'm having flashbacks to the Agora Hills Calabasas Community Center logo here. You realize that if you ask 5 council members for their artistic opinion, you're gonna get 6 opinions? So, I'd like to just keep it along the lines of what we've been saying here. I'll keep it rather generic. I like the pumpkins on the right with the lighter color because it matches bit more with the historic older banners. That's not a strong opinion, but an opinion nevertheless. When it comes to the 4th of July and the Happy Holidays, are these planned to be throughout or just intermittent in between the other historic banners?
Yes, they will be in between the other historic banners.
Okay.
Not more than five total.
Yeah, if we were going to do them throughout, I would be strongly in favor of the more colored banners on the left. But if we're going to mix them, intermittent with the existing Old Town banners, certainly the ones on the right was where I'd be leaning.
Peter, sorry to interrupt. What we're seeing is different, so maybe just clarify right and left, because Tatiana's.
I got the right ones. She's got the right.
Oh, that's so weird. I don't.
We have different staff reports.
Oh, that's so weird. Okay.
There's a power.
This is how they get me and James to vote for the same thing. They put them on opposite sides of the page.
I think the difference is the paper agenda packet has one order and the printed copy of the slides has a different order.
Correct.
Okay.
Unfortunately.
Gotcha.
So yeah, just refer to them by detail.
So again, if we're going to intermix them, I would stick with the authentic, older-looking ones. But other than that, with the rest of the details, I would leave that up to staff and more creative people than me. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilmember Albrecht.
Can't wait to see these up, and then I'll see them and I'll remember. Was that the one we approved, or was? I'm pretty open to all of them. So I think on this slide, where are we back? You want to go back to the beginning? Because I'm going to be an easy case here. Did you say you're going to use all 3 of them?
Yes.
Intermittently? I'm okay with that. No problem. And I'm okay with you want to go intermittently with this as well. You can let staff use their best idea. I like the one on the left because it's a little bit more, you can see it if you're driving or walking better because it's going to be a little higher. But some council members like the one on the right, so I'm good either way. I'll let staff make the decision on that. Ordinarily, I'd go for the one on the left because 4th of July is the American flag. It's our Independence Day. I really like it a lot, but I want to keep it in the same flavor, the same colorism, so it doesn't stick out. But I like Mayor Pro Tem's suggestion about taking the fireworks out, and I think it's certainly called for not to have it. If we have laser in the future, so be it, but at least we won't be in trouble and controversial. So I'm for the one on the right.
Can I just say, I'm in favor of fireworks. I just want that to be known.
Yeah,
I want to make sure, I would love us to continue with fireworks.
I am too.
Okay.
Yeah,
Just want to
but
make,
if we don't have it, then we're stuck.
right.
So that was a good point. I don't think we would have, you take it for granted, fireworks on the 4th of July, so it's a natural thing. As far as the holidays are concerned, good point about the snow. Most likely it'll be that one day when it does snow, when they go up, and the joke will be on us. Maybe just, I know when in the campaign I had mountains on my lawn signs, so maybe we can make more of a scenic mountain on the bottom, but I don't want to redesign this. So maybe a bigger bow, a bigger ribbon to make up for the missing snow. Maybe a larger historic Calabasas name, but I'll leave that up to staff. I like the one on the right without the snow.
Anything else?
Comments?
Those are my comments.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I'll make mine quickly because all other council members have done so. On the first 3, the welcome to Old Town, I agree with, it was Councilmember Bazagian. I like the middle one, not that we're picking one, but by far. And the only reason I say that is we've had discussions for years. We have Leonis Adobe on the left, which is technically not in Calabasas. So for whatever it's worth. All three look good, though, so whatever everyone wants is fine. Pumpkin Festival, I looked at it and I thought, okay, this is one of those tricks where you're a little kid. You have to see what's different in one over the other. But I tend to like the one on the left, but they're both good. 4th of July, I'm probably in the minority because I like the one on the, oh wait, left. Yeah, I want to make sure I'm looking at the right ones. I like the blue, red, white, and blue. The other I realize goes with it, and I'm going to think positive that we're going to have fireworks, Alicia, so hopefully that'll be in there. I do like it with the, again, I like the red, white, and blue, but I may be outvoted 4-1 on that one. So, and last but not least, on the Happy Holidays, I also, the snow wasn't the one thing that I comment on. My comment or original thought was upon seeing this that there are lots of holidays during that time, and we're saying Happy Holidays, but the picture to me says one holiday, not necessarily not that we have a big celebration for Kwanzaa or Hanukkah that I know of, although there's menorah lighting. But I would like to at least consider that it's not just Christmas. That's all. That's the point that jumped out at me, and I'll say it less tactfully than anyone else probably. But that was the only comment on that one. Otherwise, great job. And unless there are other comments, I'll turn to public speaker.
I misunderstood what you said. What do you mean Christmas?
To me, the red ribbon, the snow, that's
Oh,
Christmas.
oh, okay. I missed that.
I mean, it's
Sorry.
beautiful. and
I thought you meant the
I will
holidays part.
I will celebrate. No, Happy Holidays is
Okay.
great. No, the language is
understand.
great. And I don't, Happy New Year or not, I think Happy Holidays says it all. It's beautiful. Just a thought that anyway, that's my comment. Any other council comments, or I have a public speaker card? Yes.
Just one real quick. I heard several colleagues say you like the red, white, and blue. Councilmember Albrecht mentioned the flag. Mayor Pro Tem Weintraub mentioned getting rid of the snow. So something to consider might be combining the flag on the left with the Old Town banner on the right. Just kind of a summary of, not a summary, but a compromise of the several comments I heard.
Yeah, thank you for summarizing. What would be direction of the city council now? Would you like to?
We have a public speaker card before we
I
vote. I
apologize.
think we'd like to hear
I
from.
thought there was no.
Unless there are other council comments at this time. Okay, I'll call on Richard Sherman, who's
Yeah,
ready.
hi, I'm Richard Sherman, Calabasas resident. I'll be real quick. You know, since we're here in the audience, the 4th of July with the flag, the American flag, is very dynamic. And the fact that, I don't know if it has to be exactly the same as the other ones because it'll stand out more, and the holiday one is different than the other one. So I just think it's very dynamic. It stands out. So and the American flag is really beautiful. You know, at the Tennis and Swim Center, every holiday in December, you know, if it's Hanukkah first, there's a Hanukkah table with lights, Hanukkah lights, and then Christmas is a different celebration. I don't know if anything is done for Kwanzaa. Maybe it should, but it seems to me that the Happy Holidays is really for Christmas, which is nice and important, but I don't see anything celebrating Hanukkah or Kwanzaa. And I think especially at this time when so much is going on in the world, I think it's important to acknowledge the different faiths and different holidays. And there may be some more that I'm not aware of. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I have no other public speaker cards present, but I do have Joe Chilko online.
Correct, Mr. Mayor.
Please, thank you.
Hi, I'm Joe Chilko, longtime Calabasas resident. I'm looking at this from a different standpoint. I'm wondering what kind of materials are being used and whether they're wind resistant. And I see the banners up in Agora Hills and they seem to get faded pretty quickly, so I'm concerned about that if they're up all the time. And I'm just wondering about whether these are double-sided so that they can be viewed from, you know, either direction. I liked Councilmember Weintraub's suggestion about the Peace on Earth message, particularly apt this year. You know, even if you go with these things one year, doesn't mean you have to go with the same thing the next year for this particular thing. I also like trying to be more as to the other people who are celebrating. And graphically, it might be a little difficult, but you know, a circle of people or a half circle embracing each other. Maybe a suggestion. I agree. The red bow speaks of presence and commercialism, and you want to go in a different direction. I'd avoid that completely. I agree. You don't need Calabasas.com on there, and the rest of them all seem fine to me. Those are my comments, and if you are able to respond to any of the questions, please do. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Madam Clerk, are there any other members of the public wishing to speak on this item?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. So I will close, well, I don't have to close the public hearing. That's it for public hearing. Any other council comments on this item? I'll just mention in the report, if I saw it correctly, the weatherproof custom banners are approximately going to be $20,000 to $25,000 and paid out of the ad valorem fee. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So to make more than one set of these will cost additional funds.
We actually did the estimation based on different designs, on all these different designs.
Are you talking about having
3 for the Old Town theme and one for each holiday or event.
Right, but if you're going to do one for a holiday and then next year do a different one, that's going to be additional costs. Okay, I just want to make that clear. Is there consensus or sufficient direction from council, I hope?
I would like to clarify. Would you like to see redesign one more time, or we can proceed with the Old Town Calabasas approved banners?
The Old Town ones and the Pumpkin Festival ones, I think we gave direction that we pretty much had a consensus that we liked all the 3 Old Town ones, and the Pumpkin Festival ones, you can intersperse both of them.
Absolutely.
The other ones, maybe a redesign.
Thank you.
I would agree with that. Any other council comments on that? Otherwise, we're good? Okay. And Madam Clerk, you have your hand up?
No.
Oh,
No, Mr. Mayor.
And a Halloween
I get jumpy
one, by the way.
point.
Halloween's missing out of this. You guys are shortchanging Halloween.
Well, we're going to have the flexibility for future. All right. Thank you very much, Mr. City Manager.
Yeah, Mayor, just one question for Tatiana. So just based on order times with the redesign, I just want to be clear that we can move forward with the Old Town ones and then the Pumpkin Festival, which will be displayed next year. But anything for the holidays, we're up against a tight time frame already. So that may have to be something that's, especially with a new design presented and displayed next year. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, just wanted to make sure.
Understood. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. And happy holidays in advance. All right. We'll move on to item number 9, which was formerly number 8. Everybody okay to keep going, I hope? Good. Consider Resolution 2023-1876, adopting policies for the city's landscape and lighting management districts. Consider Resolution 2023-1877, approving the transfer of funds from Landscape Maintenance District number 22 ad valorem to Zone 7 of Landscape and Lighting Assessment District number 22 assessment. Mr. Meek will introduce the item and turn it over to Dan Bergman.
Mayor and members of the council, thank you for your time in getting to this item. Staff has been working on this for several months, and just a little bit of a background. As the council and the community is aware, one of the things that is very unique to Calabasas and the aesthetics of the city is our landscape areas, our green spaces. And many of those, as mentioned in the staff report, are paid for by assessment districts. So these assessment districts are, in essence, taxes assessed to residents or property owners. And so therefore, residents, or I should say property owners, have a vested interest in these green spaces. over the last couple of years, what we started to see is some issues that were brought to the attention of staff. And those are noted in your staff report, but it had to do with timing of reports, information that was unclear or missing, changes in expenses without explanations. We had questions from the HOA representatives about cost assigned and allocated to certain line items, and just general frustration. And understanding the concerns of our constituents and recognizing this is such a vital part of our community, as your city manager, I recommended that we bring in a third party, an outside consultant, to review this. And in doing so, we contacted with Dan Bergman with IG Service. Dan has 20 years of experience in the industry. He has specialized, he's a licensed professional engineer, and he's specialized in utilities, but also in enterprise funds. Enterprise funds, most cities will treat enterprise, or have enterprise funds, are usually water rate, or water funds, sewer funds, where money coming in has to be spent in that fund. These assessment districts are very similar, and so knowing that Dan had that experience, we were fortunate to be able to employ his talents. One of the things that also that Dan brought to the table was the ability to build relationships and work closely with staff, with members of the community, and in doing so, he had just an open, kind of open door policy to answer questions, listen to concerns, to hear the sentiments of those who are the stakeholders on these matters. So with that, Mayor and council members, I'd like to turn the time over to Mr. Bergman for a report and some further discussion on the proposed resolutions that are being presented.
Thank you very much and welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Meek. Thank you, Mayor and City Council. It is a privilege to work in such a sophisticated and beautiful city. City of Calabasas, which my 90-year-old mother calls Casablanca, which always makes me smile. I have been at this for about 5 months. I want to start with some acknowledgments, both because they are sincere, but also to highlight the many people that I've talked to in this work. First, appreciation for open access to staff, especially Ron Ehlers and Heather Melton. So many calls and emails that they responded to with my questions. Your city attorney, Matt Summers, so many questions and emails at odd times about the technicalities of legal issues around landscape management. City clerk, who helped me on scavenger hunts for old documents, and even today, with one last question. And really important are the HOA representatives. Laura Weishar and Richard Sherman are here tonight. I have probably, I'm sure I've talked to Laura more than any of the various people I've talked to. Laura has a prepared statement that will follow at the appropriate time, and she informs me that it is 3 minutes and 20 seconds long. So I would ask you to give her the grace of the 20 seconds to finish her statement. I have also talked to Joe Chilko and David Litt at length on the phone. Maybe one of them was Zoom, and I think they're probably still out there in the virtual world. So incredibly knowledgeable about the details of the differences between ad valorem and assessment district. It's amazing that community members would have so much knowledge. I had a worth at Ross Morgan, one meeting in person with her. I also want to mention the Las Virgenes Water District. A part of my work within CPHA, within the audit work I did within CPHA, was to audit 27 water accounts over 3 years to confirm that the city's reporting was correct. And it was a good question because the water expenses were all over the place. So in the end, the expenses were correct, and the reason expenses were so radical was for penalties that were paid for excessive water use. But the point is, the city's payments for water were correct, and they were accounted for correctly. But the folks at Las Virgenes, led by David Peterson, their general manager, were incredibly responsive. He and his staff prompt every step of the way, and there were many calls to get the data I needed to do that audit. And finally, City Council, thank you for your interest and for your acknowledgement, obviously, that landscape management in this city is important. I want to move on to my findings, which Kenton touched on. I'm going to be concise about this and then move on. Because these findings that I'm going to outline, these 5 findings, I discovered early on, and we quickly moved to the solution, which was procedures and the policy that's put before you tonight. So number 1, there needs to be better communication between Public Works and Finance. And by the way, all of these issues have been addressed. Number 2, more timely accounting data for the HOA reports. Number 3, better accuracy and completeness in reports issued to the HOAs. Number 4, to compensate for the challenges of employee and contractor turnover. You have a lot of new staff here, which probably is what precipitated the issue that we have, because new folks came in and didn't really know exactly how things went before. And number 5, and this is important, I discovered absolutely no wrongdoing by staff. The technical term for that is malfeasance. It is not there. And I'll give you 2 concrete examples. I already gave one, the audit of the water accounts. When you look at the numbers, they look suspicious. But when we dove into it, the accounting and the payments were correct. Number 2, where there are negative imbalances in the various zones. There's a few of those out there. And the question was, wait, who's covering those negative imbalances? And the answer is the negative imbalances are carried forward. So they don't disappear. They are carried forward and they are kept within each assessment zone. And your finance director has all of that documentation in great detail in very expansive and sophisticated Excel workbooks. So that was a pleasure to discover, which enabled me to move to, gosh, we need procedures. We need to provide guidelines for each department's responsibilities. The procedures that you have as attachment A are for staff to modify as they need. The policy, which is attachment B, is for you to approve at a higher level, but the procedures are meant as a working tool. So just to touch on some highlights of the procedure, attachment A, on the first page, you have this in your council packet, definitions and a long list of documents that I have gathered together in one place that support all of these findings. Page 2, what you see are a list of responsibilities for Public Works, ongoing, monthly, and annually. Number 3, on page 3, a similar list for the Finance Department. So this is giving them criteria that shows them when they need to have things done, how they can work together. And the HOAs, representing the assessment districts, have had a chance to look at this. So we have established ground rules that are generally accepted amongst the interested parties. The procedures document also includes some language about LMD 22. I'm going to go into that in detail. So moving from procedures is the policy document. So the procedures, again, can be modified by staff as needed to provide a better service. The policy document is for you, City Council. When you look at the policy document, attachment B, you see the resolution on top, turn to the policy, and what you see, and I'll just summarize, that landscape is important to the city. The second paragraph on page 3, city staff is key to the performance. Third paragraph, that HOA officers are volunteers and important stakeholders.
I apologize for interrupting. I'm
Sure.
probably the slow one here. Which attachment are we on? I just want to make sure we're on the same page, all of us up here.
It's attachment
Is it A?
B,
B, okay. And it's
which is
the
resolution.
policies, right?
The resolution, yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Sorry for interrupting.
Oh, that's all right. So I'm on page 3 of attachment B, and I want to read this because this statement, beginning with accordingly, captures the importance of what we're trying to accomplish here. City landscape management services to the various HOAs are deemed to be a primary service of city staff. HOA officers shall be treated as partners in landscape management of the many assessment districts in compliance with applicable law. Specifically, consistent with the core values of city staff, landscape management services shall be timely, transparent, and accurate. And that's a theme we've come back to time and time again in the work that's been done. Moving on through the policy document, where I outlined for you written procedures, the policy document says that there shall be written procedures. Page 4 of the policy document, the top are standards. In the middle is a reference to the specifics of Proposition 218. You don't need to have this in a resolution because it's already state law, but it's an opportunity to reiterate the key aspects of Prop 218, that money within each zone needs to be kept within the zone, for example, that there can't be excessive revenue, and that the monies collected can only be used for the purposes intended. Down at the bottom of page 4, you see a stipulation for reporting to the city council, and the first report will be at the end of the first complete year after this work. You guys with me? Okay, good. Page 5 of the policy statement talks about management of positive and negative fund balances within each of the assessment districts, within each of the zones, which is the responsibility of the city to manage that in cooperation with primarily HOAs as representatives of the assessment zones. And then finally we get to the special case of LMD 22, the ad valorem area. And what I wanted to do at this point, this is going to lead to the second resolution that's before you, about the transfer of funds. So I wanted to spend a little bit of time talking about the special situation of LMD 22 compared to the LLADs, the assessment districts. I can pause, or
I was just going to say, for clarification again, if the public at home or anyone's watching, it's the bottom of page 5, correct? You're on the
yes.
attachment B? All right.
And I'm going to go to slides to talk about the key difference between LMD 22. Oops, not yet. Did I do that? I didn't. Oh, there we're back. So what you've been seeing up on the screen are the 4 LLADs, 22, 24, 27, and 31, which is governed by one law, and LMD 22, which is covered by another law and another time. And it's important because it goes to the second resolution and what's being asked there. So, now I want to go forward. First, I want to point out a timeline. LMD 22, the ad valorem landscape management district, was established by the LA County in 1968. At the same time, homes were being built around the lake, long before Calabasas was a city. Because of when it was established, it's based on a law that goes back to 1911, the Improvement Act of 1911. So we go forward in time, and here comes Prop 13, which put a cap on general property tax at 1%. And I'm going to show you a good illustration of that in a minute. After Proposition 13 comes all of the LLADs. So LMD 22 is before Prop 13. The landscape and lighting assessment districts are after Prop 13, and they're associated with a different law, the Landscape and Lighting Act of 1972. So Prop 13 is key here, and the different laws are key here. And I know you got to think about that, but it's this timeline and these factors that explain the complexity of the thing as we go forward. I think someone else is controlling slides, but I'm ready to go to the next one. Or maybe I'm doing it. Oh, I guess I am. So here is a comparison of, it's a good comparison because they compared well in this way. What controls LMD 22 ad valorem, and what controls the assessment district? First, as I pointed out, it's different laws. 1911 Improvement Act versus 1972 Landscape and Lighting Act. Second is the funds that come to the city for the ad valorem come from within the 1% on your property tax bill. And I'm going to show you a picture of that in a minute. Whereas the funds for the LLADs come from an assessment line on the bill. It's in a different place on the bill that everyone gets. The ad valorem amount the city gets is a function of property value. That's what ad valorem means, in proportion to. The revenue that comes in for the districts changes with the annual inflation index for each of the assessment districts, which are calculated annually. There's one LMD 22, the city's Fund 21, and then 4 of the LLADs. There's 4 common benefit zones within the LMD and 40 zones, each of which has a different assessment number within the 4 lighting and landscape districts. And finally, for the assessment districts, the property owners decide. They can vote them, or I'm being careful to say property owners and not HOAs. It's the property owners ultimately that decide. They can vote themselves in, they can vote themselves out, and they can vote to increase how much money they contribute. Not the case with the ad valorem. The authority with the ad valorem is similar to the authority City Council has with general funds. You can be influenced by the public, but it's more in your decision than it is with property owners. Interesting, as I'll show you in a moment, the LMD 22 portion, it's about 4% of the 1%. We dug so deep because I wanted to see it with my own eyes. So 4 cents on every dollar. It's $2.5 million a year to the city, which is significant. And the fund balance right now is about $8 million. It's a lot of money, which is a good thing because it's a chunk of the 1%, right? People are paying it anyway. So now to look at that portion of your property tax bill that shows what you're paying. So in this particular bill, you see the land/light 22. Well, that's the assessment district portion. That's what property owners can vote in or vote out. But what you can't see is the LMD ad valorem, the LMV 22 portion, because it's buried in the 1%. Where is it? Here it is. So again, thanks to so many people that provided information. Here, this is one tax rate area within Calabasas. And you can see, I think it was 24 different entities that get a chunk of that 1%. And right there, you see landscape maintenance number 22. That is the ad valorem tax. In this case, it's 4.38973 cents on the dollar. So it's so confusing because you have LMD 22 and LLID 22, and they are different animals. Okay, so that's the slide part. Now I wanted to go to the resolution, which is attachment C. Back to my notes. One of the issues that came up was the issue of how bird control had been paid for at Calabasas Lake. And it's a significant amount of money, $381,682. So let me just go through very mechanically my findings. From 2016 to 2022, Zone 7 funds paid for bird control. So it wasn't ad valorem money, it was from within just the Zone 7 group. The amount, as I stated...
Sorry to interrupt again. We're just trying to follow along. I've lost track of where we should be looking, if there is something.
I'm going through the
Please.
resolution. I'm actually speaking from my notes.
Okay, we'll just listen.
Yeah. Thank you for asking, though. So $381,682. The result of that has been to constrain Zone 7 from other services and to place Zone 7 with a negative fund balance. And this is where a very close review came in, including legal review. The city attorney will certainly comment if and when he wants to. We looked very carefully at the language of the 1911 Improvement Act, at the 1968 county resolution establishing LMD 22, and at the 2010 agreement between CPHA and the city regarding the lake and the associated park. It is clear from that review that the ad valorem funds are for all aspects of maintenance of the lake and the park, which includes bird control. So accordingly, this resolution is prepared to transfer LMD 22 ad valorem funds to Zone 7 to cover the expenses, which it should have paid for anyway, and that will correct the negative imbalance and provide additional funds for other work within CPHA that could have been done. I also want to point out that this transfer is outside general fund expenses, and that the LMD 22 money, Fund 21 money, is accounted for separate from general fund available revenue. So that concludes my formal comments. I hope you were able to understand this because it's a little bit twisted with the different laws. I'm open for questions or discussion.
And Mr. Mayor, if I could jump in briefly.
Yes, Mr. City Attorney.
Thank you. Mayor and Council, before questions, I will confirm that the proposed resolution transferring a defined amount of funding from LMD, the Landscape Management District Number 22 ad valorem, to Zone 7 of LL80 22 is legal. The reason being that the use of those funds for bird control at the Calabasas Lake, which is accessible to all property owners who pay into LMD 22, and thus accessible to those who would be paying for that cost, is a legal use of those funds, if approved by the council.
Okay, and for clarity, just for the public, for us, that is, we're talking about the Falconer now?
Correct. It would be for
Correct.
the Falconer for the period 2006 through, I'm sorry, not
16?
16 through 2023.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Turn to council comments and questions at this point. We'll start with Councilmember Albrecht, who's ready.
Dan, this is a terrific report. I mean, that's an understatement. I'm sure all of us on council got exposed to this. I got exposed very early. I met with members of the board, brought it to my attention, and there were so many problems. It was like broken glass. And how do you put it back together again from so many areas? You know, when you mention you know, timely reporting, communication, better accuracy, employee turnover, which was a big deal, and the fact that you discovered there was no wrongdoing, which was a big concern. So I think the idea was to really create procedures, policies and procedures discovery, then policies and procedures, and something that they could use as a template going into the future and feel comfortable with and understand, and have that connected to the city so everybody's, as they refer to, as the same page. Monster creation here that you came up with a beautiful solution, and anxious to hear from members of the board, you know, how they feel about it and if they're satisfied, because they were involved with the construction of all this and the detail, and we're grateful to have someone like yourself who's familiar with all of this to dig down there forensically and look for the fingerprints. And thank you. That's my comment.
Thanks very much. And with my colleagues okay to do this, I'd like to hear from a member of the public who's been here for a good 3 hours waiting for this and has information at this time before we go ahead with our comments. Laura Weishauer. Welcome.
Thank you, and good evening. When Dan invited me to speak today, I didn't know it was going to be a slumber party, so I thank you all. I am Laura Weishauer, Classic Calabasas Commission Chair. Dr. Richard Sherman, President of the Calabasas Park Homeowners Association, and I engaged in this effort. More than a year ago, financial reporting concerns were identified and shared with the city. The issue involved Zone 7 and the LMD 22. These issues were taken seriously and even included the city hiring an outside consultant who researched, reviewed, and analyzed data. The consultant, Dan Bergman's review, also included speaking with residents from various areas of Calabasas. The work resulted in these proposed policies and procedures that will enhance the timeliness, transparency, and accuracy of financial reporting. And this will be for the benefit of the city and the HOAs. We suggest the adoption tonight of both resolutions, 2023-1876 and 2023-1877, which includes the new financial policies and the transfer of funds to Zone 7. As with other action plans that have come before the council, frequent monitoring is essential. It is strongly recommended that the services of the consultant be retained to periodically review the financial data and report findings for the near future. Importantly, with the passage of these resolutions, Zone 7 will now be able to address delayed landscape projects. Landscape Manager Heather Milton and Landscape Maintenance Inspector Edgar Hernandez provided excellent assistance in identifying areas that need attention. These areas include, first, proactively addressing potential land erosion. Second, preventing safety hazards on the lake walkways. Third, refurbishing specific landscape areas. And fourth, maintaining the medians throughout the park. These are the priority items that we would address if these resolutions were passed. I would like to say that on behalf of the Calabasas Park Homeowners Association, I did go over, didn't I?
We had a request for you to have 32 more seconds, so please go ahead.
Thank you. On behalf of the Calabasas Park Homeowners Association, we want to sincerely thank Kimden Meek for his leadership and insights on this issue, and thank you for taking us seriously. We'd also like to thank the city manager, Ron Ayers, the CFO, and Philip Lazanafane, got it, interim public works directors, as well as Dan, our consultant, for addressing these concerns. And I have to say that none of these many meetings would have been possible without the magical help of Annie Cadillion. She was wonderful in getting us all together. In closing, we are grateful that the city listened to our concerns. All this hard work and many hours of joint effort will benefit the area's zones and keep Calabasas award-winning and beautiful. And we thank you.
Thank you very much. And with my colleagues' consent, I'll go ahead and hear there's two individuals online who wish to be heard as well. Would you like to hear from them before we finish our comments? They're
David.
positive people.
People we know. David Litt.
We'll start with David Litt, speaking of positive.
Thank you, Council. David Litt, 22-year resident, 19-year member of CPHA, 4-year treasurer of CPHA. Of my 19 years on the commission, I'm chair of the commission as well. I'm not patting myself on the back, but I do believe I am the top authority of knowledge on this issue. And I do have some issues with the resolutions and some of the facts. And I'll try to make it quick. The reason why this is before you is because it was not at the forefront of that county department in the city of Calabasas. And CPHA got slammed with a document that came in late, our accounting, that instead of showing us with a surplus, which we got every year, it showed a major negative balance. This is what started the whole thing. As well, some of you will connect the dots when I have spoken in the past, complaining on other issues where it took maybe 6 months for us to get an accounting. We were saying we can't do our work in the park because we don't have the accounting. So all this came to the forefront. Dan Bregman, I've spoken with Dan a couple times. I've spent over probably 2 hours of my time. I don't get paid for this. I'm a volunteer. Dan knows his stuff. He's a good man. What Dan has given you is he's given you a roadmap that the accounting department should have that just everybody needs to follow. But if you go back to the history, and let's take Gary Lysis, this never was an issue. And with Steve Ball, was never an issue. What we did is we knew what we had in our zone budget, and we spent that money in the zone budget. But the last year, mainly Shirley Greenberg, David Litt, Laura Weischer, were complaining, saying we don't have the data. We can't make decisions if we can cut trees or weed whack, and we don't know where our money is. Then lo and behold comes the document where we just got we got blindsided. Instead of us having a small surplus that we had every year, my 19 years in Calabasas, a small positive, it went to a negative. That's what started this whole thing, period, nothing else. What Dan, again, is giving you, he's giving you a roadmap. Where the problems are still today is as I'm no longer on CPHA. I retired, and I don't want to be on CPHA again. They do wonderful work over there, but I don't, as a taxpayer, as voted indebtedness, Zone 7 voted indebtedness, LMD 22 ad valorem, 1%. Every city gets a percentage of that ad valorem tax. Voted indebtedness is something that I vote for if I want to pay for this or not. I'm entitled as a taxpayer to see this. I don't know if there's still going to be a negative in Zone 7's budget. If there is, then I have a problem with a number of things. If you go to Resolution 23-1877 and just go with the recitals, which are important, which we will come in down the road, paragraph number 4 goes, whereas
David, I'm sorry, I need you to wrap up, please. We have other
okay.
people online.
This is important, David. Really
I know
important.
we have
more important
counsel.
than some
You've gone
procedure.
over the 3 minutes. I gave you additional 20
I'm
seconds.
just
Please wrap
letting
up.
letting you know, if you guys are doing a one line item of 381,000, it's not a fact that LMD 22 paid that money. If that will line out Zone 7 and make us even or a small surplus or a small negative, I will draw a red line in the sand and say that there's no problem. There's no way in the world that Zone 7 paid for the birds for 7 years. It was voted on by the city council.
David, I have to ask you to finish, please.
Okay, last
I
thing,
appreciate
paragraph.
No, we've got to go on to the next speaker. I'm sorry. Madam Clerk?
Joe Shilka, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Joe, welcome, and I appreciate David's comments.
Thank you. I'm Joe Chilko, a longtime Calabasas resident. I appreciated the opportunity to share my concerns with Dan Bergman, and I appreciate our city manager facilitating that, which was an offer available to any resident. I'm concerned that there isn't a mechanism to distribute information to all city residents. The procedures include notification and reports to HOAs only. Deer Springs in particular and other areas of the city do not have an active HOA representing them. No resident should be at a disadvantage to receive information regarding costs they are required to pay. How will the city communicate with residents that do not have HOA representation? It's not enough to have the information available upon request. Some residents, especially those new to Calabasas, may not know to ask. I ask that the city council discuss the matter and provide a workable solution that meets the needs of all the residents. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, any other speakers online?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. We'll turn back to council comments and questions and return to Council Member Pratt.
Thank you. First of all, what an immense task you had ahead of you, and thank you for all of your time in putting all of this together. First of all, I'd like to say I'm in support of both resolutions. I think it's important that we make LLAD Zone 7 whole again, the LLAD 22 Zone 7, and that we spend the funds for the ad valorem funds where they're supposed to be spent. So I think that's a no-brainer. When it comes to the procedures, it's nice to have a set of written procedures moving forward. I think our last speaker noted one of the difficult problems that we're going to have with that, which is that our primary means of communication is through HOAs. I don't know that there's an easy solution for that, but what I would suggest certainly is that anybody in the Deer Springs area that, for example, that does not have an HOA representing them, that is wanting to get more information and participate can certainly request records for LLAD 24 at any given point in time, and we can certainly share those schedules so that they can get information in a timely fashion. The other thing I wanted to touch on real quickly is the negative balances that we have. I was really shocked to hear that the water penalties were a significant source of those higher water bills. And I'm wondering if our city staff could certainly work with the LMDs, or I'm sorry, the LLADs, to, one, create a plan of drought-tolerant plants that would use less water and get them not only below their water budget, but out of the penalty area, using less water, and help create a plan moving forward, especially for those in those negative balances, that allows them to catch up over a certain period of time, over, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, however long it takes. Not that we're going to shut off the water and kill all the plants until their negative balance is caught up, but we need to give them that chance to make that transition to a cost savings landscape. Do we have a plan for that? Is there a schedule for that?
Well, first of all, one of the thoughts that occurred to me as you were talking about managing negative balances is Heather doesn't have any gray hair yet, but if there's anything I've observed in the work that she does, it's trying to work that out with the landscape districts. There's two choices. They can lower expenses, or if the CPI adjustment isn't enough, which it wouldn't have been, then they would have to vote 50% of property owners plus one to increase their assessment. But yes, the water bill is one issue. Water's expensive. What's interesting is that the recycled water penalties are almost as high as the potable water penalties. So whether it's recycled or not, if you use too much, it's expensive. The water district has tools that can be set up. I have recommended that they be set up where alarms are sent. The challenge is your city staff is stretched, so these tools need to be set up, and WaterWise is their program. You can set it up for leaks. You can set it up for usage above a certain threshold, so that when something goes wrong, somebody gets an email. But also drought tolerant can help. So it's a combination of things: lower expenses, change landscape, increase the amount of money, but it's the toughest thing that your staff has to deal with.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Weintraub?
Thank you, Dan, for the great report. I guess maybe my questions are for Kindon, for Dan, but I'm going to focus on something a little different. This all came to us through volunteers that were really frustrated with the process. And I really want to understand how we got to that point. Like, I don't think it's the job of volunteers to spend hours and hours sorting through a city's mess. I mean, we're so lucky that they were so devoted to this and had their expertise. And then I'm curious, and then we had to bring in a consultant, a very valuable one, but I'm just wondering why this couldn't, how we got to this problem. I mean, you're talking about in your analysis that our city staff is stretched. But how are we going to rein this in with all of these recommendations to be able to be successful internally so that we don't have to rely on volunteers to do the job of city staff? And I'm so appreciative of the work that our volunteers did. I worry what's next? They're always going to be the ones checking in, making sure that we're following the recommendations. I mean, what are the processes set up now?
Mayor Pro Tem, very good questions. And let me address just in some of the big picture, and then also dial in on some of the more specific. First of all, the procedures that have been outlined, that's the roadmap to move forward. And I think we all know that procedures are only as good as the time that is given to them. And so that's going to require leadership and change on our part as staff. It's going to require that we communicate better. It also requires that we recognize the partnership that we have with our assessment districts, or the HOAs. And with that, as many of you are aware, our new Public Works Director is here tonight, Curtis Castle. And so it will be an opportunity for Curtis coming in, building on what has been done with this roadmap, and for myself, the Finance Director, the Public Works Director, Heather, and other staff to sit down regularly to make sure that those procedures are being adhered to. So that's going to be incumbent on us. That has to happen.
And do you think that we will be successful at that? Like, are they attainable?
They are, yes. The other thing that we would like to do is continue to utilize the services of Dan Bergman as a consultant. This is an opportunity for him as an outside perspective, outside set of eyes, to review what we're doing according to these procedures, weekly, monthly, quarterly, and so forth. What we don't want to do, as much as we love Dan and have appreciated his work, is we need to develop that trust with the HOAs. We need to develop that trust and that cohesion working as a staff to provide that accuracy, that timeliness, and that transparency. That's incumbent on us.
So from now on, the HOAs will have their reports in a timely manner?
Correct. So as part of the procedures, you'll see that there's outlined that each of those monthly reports are provided within 45 days at the end of the month, with the exception of the months of July and August and September.
Okay. Thank you, Dan. Thank you to Laura and CPHA for staying on top of this. We're lucky because, I mean, if this didn't get brought to our attention, this could have been an even bigger mess, and it's already was a mess. So, thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Bazagian.
I'm supportive of both these resolutions. I wish to thank everybody as well. This reminds me a lot of the problems we had 20 years ago at the Tennis and Swim Center. I don't know if anybody remembers that, but the Tennis and Swim Center had been using LMD funds for the maintenance of the landscaping within the tennis center. And the city had to reimburse the landscape maintenance district, as I recall, about $150,000, which was a lot for the time period back then and for the short time that those funds were used. So I'm glad these procedures will be in place. Hopefully this won't happen again quite like this, and I intend to support both resolutions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I'll also thank you, Dan. I appreciated talking to you. It's great to see you in person. And especially we heard from Laura, and I know Richard's here. They were very involved along with a lot of other residents. But thank you for your time and effort. And of course, Kindon and staff who worked on this so hard. I just want to ask a couple questions or comments, make a couple comments based in part on what I've heard and understood. Councilmember Kraut, I believe, addressed a concern of a resident, talking about the fact that the resident's information can be obtained very easily, so we'll go through that. And I want to just compliment you. I believe, if I'm correct, and you can verify, the excessive water bills you were able to discover in this instance, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so my question following up on that is, and this maybe goes to Kindon, how do we have that plan in place to always have our staff monitor and make sure that doesn't pass by the wayside or go down the creek?
Mayor, thank you. And I think a couple of those comments Dan already made. So
okay.
It's going to be required that we not only monitor it just as these invoices come in, but using the technology that Las Virgenes Municipal Water District has in place to provide these alerts. And then also working closely with the district on those meters where the square footage of that meter isn't allocated correctly. And so by increasing that square footage of what needs to be irrigated or watered will lower the risk of any penalties being assessed. So it's requiring that, again, that teamwork and that discussion and that partnership with the district, using the technology available to monitor the meters, and then again monitoring the invoices that come in.
Great, thank you. And again, we're all saying the same thing, and you said it much more eloquently, but staff needs procedures, our city needs procedures to be followed to not find ourselves in this situation again going forward, and that seems to be what we're about to do, hopefully. Can you just address quickly, and I know I did cut him off, but as I heard you and as I've read the reports and been through this process, I understood that both these resolutions were to bring about a level playing field rather than to have a negative balance for Zone 7. Could you address that, please?
Well, the second resolution is specifically directed towards Zone 7 because of the issues with how bird control was paid for. The first resolution goes to the policy, which are specifications for how negative balances and positive balances are handled in general.
Okay.
So
I guess the question, I'm trying to relay his question, and I know you heard it, and that was whether or not there will be a negative balance in Zone 7, or this brings it. Oh,
this will put Zone 7 in the positive.
That was my understanding as well. I just want to make sure it's clear.
Yeah, big nod from the guy against the wall over there, finance director.
I would ask him, but it's in our reports, and we talked about this previously, or city manager has. Thank you very much, and I am supportive of both of these motions as well. And I'll look to see if there's any other council comments or questions.
I'll make a motion.
I think Councilmember Albrecht wants to speak. Yes, that's what you said.
Sure. One of the concerns that I heard in the very beginning, and I think we've really vetted this very, very well, was, we had used this last winter as an example. We had so much rain, and the rain hits the trees leaves get wet, and branches fall, all of that. So when there's an expense that has to be spent right away, the HOA hadn't been contacted. There was a delay in that, so they didn't know that they had these huge bills that were coming due. So I'd like to know that when something happens, they're reached out right away so they can make a decision on if they want to go forward with it or if they want to modify it, or at least be in some kind of control. So the dynamic movement of these emergency issues, they're a spokesperson for that.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up. It's been an item that we've revisited often, and that is, and this goes to landscape management, to Heather's group, where there are exceptions to proactively communicate that to the HOA in this case, so that they're not surprised. And it's something else in this case on her plate, at least right now, that could change.
And that's going to be at the city level because Emergency Services, Public Works is going to have to contact them.
Yeah. But proactive communication.
Good.
Nobody likes a surprise, especially when it has to do with more money, right?
Yeah, well, it's a big component of them knowing it in advance.
Sure.
Or as it's due. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, if I
Yes,
could
please.
just add,
Phil.
Councilman Albrecht, that is already happening. So if you do have a situation like the heavy weather, where there's branches and trees need to be trimmed, usually we'll get a proposal, we'll talk to the HOA about it, maybe even some consequences of that. They say, yes, go do it, and we schedule that. At times where there's an emergency, hey, we've got to take this tree out, and it happens right away, or in a wind event, trees blow down, the sheriff might actually call for the removal. Those are unexpected, and then we'll work with the HOA and say, okay, we need to rebalance somehow. Is there something that we don't need to do so that we can pay for this unexpected expense? Of course, reserves will also help with that.
Thank you.
Okay, any other council comments, or I'll go, Mr. City Manager, yes.
Okay. Mayor, if I could just also respond, one of the things, just in light of that, as these statements go out, it's going to be incumbent on us as staff to highlight and document any anomalies. And so, as we send these statements out to each of the zones, each of the districts, we will be able to highlight why there might be a swing in numbers, why there might be an increase, why there might be a significant decrease, and Heather does so well of anticipating what is coming ahead. She knows any given year if we're going to need 1, 2, 3, or 4 cuts for brush clearance, whatever that might be. And so if a zone has budgeted for a certain amount of brush clearance, and we're in a season where that is needed more, we're going to need to communicate with those monthly statements going out.
Great. Thank you for that, and it sounds like communication and transparency is one of the items here, will be very important going forward. No other council comments or questions, and no one asking anything. I will now ask for a motion to adopt Resolution 2023-1876, adopting policies for the city's landscape and lighting management districts, and adoption of Resolution number 2023-1877, authorizing the transfer of $381,862 from Landscape Maintenance District number 22 ad valorem funds to Zone 7 of the Landscape and Lighting Assessment District number 22 to reimburse funds for expended for bird control in and around the lake and park.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Otherwise, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
And none opposed. That passes 5-0. Thank you, thank you, and thank you. And now we're turning to the next item, which is a review. It's number 10, review and provide direction of the prioritization of future agenda items provide direction, and I'll say to those who waited this long, sorry for interrupting, Chamber, always present, brought some goodies from Crumble in the back, I believe, as a party favor on the way out, for those who stayed. Thank you. This is a review, provide direction on future agenda items to be referred to council committees or city commissions.
I have a question. How long do we expect this item to be?
I think it'll be a while, but I'll defer to the city manager on that.
I don't know, Mayor Pro Tem. It just depends on your questions and recommendations. There's nothing urgent about this item. If the council would like to postpone that to another meeting.
That would be nice.
I thought, given the events tonight, if we could push it to the next council meeting when everyone's fresh and we can spend the time it needs, would be my recommendation.
I'm fine with that. Any?
Yes.
Okay, it seems like we're unanimous. If we could, do we need to make a motion on that?
Unanimous consent is fine.
Perfect.
Thank you.
So we'll move that to the next meeting.
That will give me time to switch the priorities, just like the banners were, so it confuses you a little bit.
We'll have a banners up there as one of the priorities. Okay.
We'll make it a memory test.
We'll move to informational reports. The check register for the period of September 30th to October 13th, 2023. Any questions regarding the check register? Seeing none, we'll move on to task force reports. We'll start with Mayor Pro Tem Weintraub.
I seriously need to write these down.
Okay.
Yeah. You can,
I'll go to Councilmember Bazagian. We can always
okay,
come back.
I'll come back.
That's fine. As has been alluded to, Councilmember Kraut and I toured the community center last Thursday. It looks very nice inside, and the outside, of course, you can see for yourself. The roof has been completed, and we are working toward an opening very early next year, hopefully in January, but we never know. As far as the League of California Cities, my first meeting on the state board will be in November, and we are setting our strategic priorities for the state. If any of you have any suggestions, or Alicia, if the COG has any priorities, since I'm the only person from this area on the board, it'd be nice if you guys could forward them to me, and I will bring them up. And I have nothing regarding contract cities.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Kraut.
Thank you. On the 17th, Councilmember Bazagian and I met with the Open Space Acquisition Committee and had a meeting with Joe Edmondson and identified properties that the city would be interested in acquiring as open space. No action was taken, but a lot of good brainstorming. That evening, the Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy met online. Participated in that. Nothing significant to report, but a lot of great resource conservation going on there. Our homelessness task force met on the 18th as well. Got an update from our Michael, what's your title now? Deputy City Manager, thank you. I was going to call you Assistant City Manager. I knew I was close. Our Deputy City Manager gave us a great update summarizing the successes that our program has had. Not a lot, guys. Not a lot of homeless individuals in Calabasas, and those that have been approached don't seem to take advantage of most of our services. But we have had some small successes. And if I can just share real quickly then. One of our individuals experiencing, what's that?
I think we have to.
We can't make a report at this time?
No, I'm just saying I wouldn't talk about individual people.
All right, well, we've had individual successes. We'll just leave it at that then. And then last two things, we did have that agency ribbon cutting on the 18th, which is right across the street from here. Fabulous company. Fabulous ribbon cutting, great party afterwards as well. And then, of course, the Agora Hills Calabasas Community Center, which I toured with Councilmember Bazagian. So it's been a real busy week, and that's it for me.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Albrecht.
Thank you. I don't have, but I've got two little reports. One, Headwaters Corner. We're on the home stretch of submitting an updated terms of our lease, so we'll have some future items to report. And then just something, I always talk about the Clean Power Alliance, but I thought everybody would really like to know this. They're celebrating the largest single EV charging infrastructure investment in venture accounting history. So this is the little train that could. They've got over $5 million allocated to install publicly available electric chargings throughout. So I'm excited. More and more cities are choosing reliable energy, and they're growing by leaps and bounds. So we made a good decision as a council years ago to surround our city with renewable energy. I'm happy to continue to report on it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Weintraub.
Peter reported on our homeless task force meeting. Our COG meeting was postponed to later in the month. And I've just been meeting with a lot of residents on individual issues and working with staff to help resolve them.
Great, thank you. And Mayor Pro Tem Weintraub and I, along with the members of the CTC and staff, attended a wireless task force meeting working on issues or discussing issues of cell service for the community as well as broadband. And there'll be more coming forward from that meeting. SCAG, as I mentioned, or sent to all council. There's an economic summit in about 30 days. Everyone's invited. Next week I'll be attending, I believe it's next week in Long Beach, a U.S. Conference of Mayors event pertaining to transportation infrastructure and potential grants for small cities among those, which hopefully can bring something forward for our city. Tomorrow morning, Valley Economic Alliance, 8 a.m. board meeting. And VICA is upcoming as well next week, the local office holders and state office holders meeting. That's all I have. And I bet the city manager has something to report because luckily somebody appeared tonight and stayed and is excited to work forward on this discussion we just had.
Yeah, Council, yes, thank you, Mayor. Just a couple items as mentioned earlier. We're excited to announce the appointment of Curtis Castle as the new Public Works Director. Curtis will begin in November 27th. He's already started getting initiated into what's happening. We met with Curtis and Phil and Heather and Tatiana and Louis and I on Monday. We spent a couple hours together, and since then, unfortunately, we have his personal email, so we're starting to send things already to his attention, so he's aware and familiar with what's going on. We look forward to that and appreciate Phil Lansafame for what he's done over the last few months as he's stepped in and helped us out. And we'll be working with Phil on some other projects, and I'll be bringing that to your attention shortly in the upcoming meetings. A couple other things. I just want to, Council, thank you for the acknowledgement of the Pumpkin Festival. It was a great event. It always amazes me just the collaboration and the work that is done by our staff. As we know, Community Services does the heavy lifting with that. But what is also wonderful to see is every Pumpkin Festival you have employees from each department volunteering and working out of their normal capacities, whether that's setup or takedown or ticket taking or whatever that might be. And so it takes a large group of dedicated team members to come together to do that. And it's fun to all don that shirt together and then work together on that day. Finally, just one other thing for the council's information. The deputy city manager and I met with AGS, our new security firm, recently. They will begin on November 1st. They will be predominantly scheduled here at the Civic Center campus, especially in light of some of the events that have happened over the last couple of months. They're very sophisticated in what they do, very forward-thinking. We're excited to work with them and know that they are very intent on doing a good job for the city. So we look forward to introducing you to them over the next few weeks as well.
Great, thank you. And did you want, okay, I'll turn to future agenda items. This is a rarity. I do not usually have one. I have one I'd like to bring up, but I'll turn to council first.
I have one, and it's an unfortunate one, but many cities are going through what we went through tonight, and I think what we need to do is get a memorandum from the city attorney and then possibly agendize a discussion of our options. which unfortunately would be everything on the table up to and including cutting out virtual participation, which many cities have done just because of this. Once it starts, usually after every single meeting, to go through something like this is not going to be acceptable. So I'd like to have that memorandum as soon as possible.
And that was actually my
Yeah.
item as well, so I agree with that. I was just going to maybe go a step further and ask if we can, I guess part of it would be to ask if we can provide, require written verification of name and address before accepting a call, or we just...
That unfortunately was outlawed. We can't require
Okay.
pre-registration, but what we can do is have the council either consent to the mayor as an emergency measure temporarily suspending Zoom participation, or have a discussion for the council to decide whether or not to suspend Zoom. Those are both two basic choices.
Can we get our total
But we can bring
range of
We can have a email discussion of the, or not discussion, one-way email from me to you of the full set of options, and then a council discussion at the next meeting, mindful that that next meeting would thus still include a Zoom component, unless the council would authorize the mayor, or the mayor can do it as a temporary measure, and then council can direct otherwise from there.
I didn't understand what the temporary measure is.
The basic question is, do we allow Zoom at the next meeting or not? The mayor can suspend the Zoom for the next meeting, and council could decide to bring it back, or we have council decide next meeting with Zoom still in place, and council decide to what to do from there. Both or all of the above is legal. We looked at the council, but we can certainly bring a menu back of your options. The options are unfortunately somewhat limited. The First Amendment is what it is. But as you saw tonight, we can exclude speakers who are actively disrupting the meeting, which means they speak on items that are not relevant to the particular agenda item component.
The other question I have, Mr. Mayor, if you'll just indulge me for a moment, can you tell us now as to like tomorrow, this meeting will be replayed and then it'll be archived. So is there, I know we can't exclude portions of the meeting from what I understand. So do we put a disclaimer? Do we say?
We could add a disclaimer in front, and we could always, no law requires rebroadcast. No law requires, so we could suspend rebroadcast. We could put a disclaimer in front. We have to keep it on the website, but we don't have to rebroadcast it on the CTV.
I think we might have a short answer.
But I would like
Okay.
Mr. Russo.
Can I ask? Oh, okay.
I was going to say, for the rebroadcast, those portions of the public comment section can be edited out because they did not pertain to the subject matter jurisdiction of the council.
I understood you can't do that.
Yeah, I'm not, let's discuss that further offline.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
The technology exists, it's a legal issue. We'll discuss it more than, not this moment. But what I would suggest is the city manager and the mayor in consultation could decide what to do about the rebroadcast. No law requires rebroadcast.
Okay, but we're going to get the memorandum shortly so we can decide.
Well, it would it's not going to be, it's going to be the mayor and the manager, because we don't have a meeting
No,
tomorrow.
I mean the general memorandum about how to
Yes,
go
we can,
forward. Okay.
But he's talking
Yeah.
about the rebroadcast is going to come
understood.
before.
that will happen, an executive decision will be made by the mayor and
Okay.
manager.
Okay.
Did you have something, Mayor Pro Tem?
Yeah, no, I just want to add that I don't want the hate to win out over our ability to engage with the public. So I feel really strongly about that. As much as it's awful to go through that as tonight, I'm like still rattled by it. I mean, it's something we definitely have to discuss the pros and cons, because that's what these people want. They want to get to us. They want us to be scared. And we've set up something really great for members of the public to call in. So I just want to think about this.
Okay, I understand. Any other comments or questions on this side? No?
I have another agenda item once we go
Okay,
with this one.
I just make a quick comment, which is, again, I understand, and it's important to have public comment. We're going to keep, I've been waiting for this for a couple meetings now, according to the information. So it's not going to go away, as you've indicated. It's going to come back, and it'll be the next meeting. So while we discuss it, which is fine, you can anticipate there'll be more, not less, I would presume. But that's just an
That may
opinion.
be the case, unfortunately.
So, and I'm not intimidated or scared or anything. I just don't want it to disrupt. We had a full meeting tonight. We couldn't even finish the meeting. So I don't have time for people's either real or nonsense that disrupts what is important city business. That's all.
It would be nice to edit it out, so let's find out if we can potentially do that.
The comments were related to,
Yeah.
at least mine,
We'll take a
about
look at it.
not having those interruptions going forward.
And I just had one other request.
On that, or?
No.
Okay,
Oh, are we still talking
Yeah.
about that?
okay. Peter?
Agenda items?
Oh, okay, we had an agenda item here, I
Oh,
guess.
I brought it up at the beginning of the meeting, but I just want to make sure that we connect with Malibu and the Lost Hills Sheriff Station on how we can be involved in making PCH a safer road, because it impacts our residents as well, and it's a really big issue to this region, so how we can get involved in that. Thank
Maybe
you.
the COG. Maybe the COG.
Right, but I think,
Okay.
right. Mhm.
Councilmember Kraut.
Yeah, I'd like a future agenda item to discuss reviewing and amending our development code. In particular, was mentioned tonight and showed up in our ruling for the West Village that there's a number of places where our code refers to open space, and those definitions don't carry through to other sections. So, for example, clustering refers to open space as untouched native land, whereas other areas allow for development. So I'd like a review that would maybe make that a little bit tighter in many areas, and perhaps include in implementing what's called an objective development code standard, which would be enforceable, something that Agora Hills has done, and we should investigate doing as well.
Is that something staff can, I guess I'm asking the city attorney, can just do, or does it have to go through a long, lengthy process?
I mean, it has to be an ordinance with the planning commission recommendation and council approval, but with the second council member, we could bring that forward. Staff has had our own ideas based on the outcome of the West Village case and other situations. So if there was support, we'd bring it forward through the process.
Did you want to bring it forward?
No, not on that. I had a
Can I
question.
get a second?
I had a
Does he have a
question.
second?
Is there
Is
a
there a
second?
second on that item?
Yes.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
fine.
Okay.
Thank you.
I thought, I heard one,
And
yes.
David,
thank
I'm so sorry, my request, I guess it's really not a future agenda item. It's just asking if there's consensus for you to talk to Malibu and talk to Captain C2. It's not anything that needs to come back, just it's such a timely issue, if there's consensus for
There,
Camden.
I'm sure there's consensus.
Okay,
It's
sorry,
our
not to come
region.
back.
Okay.
Yeah.
Councilmember Albrecht, were you done? I'm sorry.
I am.
Thank you.
I'm okay.
Oh, you good?
Good.
Okay. And the only thing I'm going to add is it is not a future agenda item. This is, we didn't cover it, so I'll mention it. We all signed the proclamation for this month. This month is Family Court Awareness Month, and there's a beautiful proclamation pertaining to the importance of family court, which I know someone in the audience is very familiar with, and how important that is. And that's all I have, and we will adjourn our council meeting to the next regularly scheduled meeting on Wednesday, November 8th, 2023 at 7 p.m. Thanks very much.